live in the lab. Got Robbie G on already. I'm setting up my Periscope feed now, so bear with me. I hit a wrong button, screwed up the whole intro, but hey, Robbie's a genius, and when he puts it out there, I know he'll have it all fixed and everything, because sometimes I just be making mistakes sometimes. But since no intro, I guess I'll go ahead and go to Robbie G. How you doing tonight? Let me turn my feed on.
I'm doing good. I'm just checking to make sure that all our stuff is going live, and it looks like we are. Um, but I didn't know if I would be home. Okay. Anyway, Hurt just wondered if he could be on the show tonight. So maybe we might have a guest appearance of him as part of our football. I don't know. What do you think? Breaking
Sure.
news.
Yeah, we can definitely bring him in. We
Oh,
got
oh,
we got Dujanay on from 8 to 8:20. We can always bring in Hurt at the end of it and fill up till 8:30. Then we can go on to hockey after that. You see how it is with live shows. You never know what might happen. We don't get this type of info on the air, but hey, it's what we do. Stuff happens. So you're part of the social media family and part of the Sports OTHP fans. So out of these 193 episodes, we done had a couple of hiccups here and there, but hey, it is what it is. It's still the best DC sports coverage you're going to get around. Go check out the website, sportsothp.com, for all the latest episodes, links to blogs, to the apparel line. Make sure you go cop the Sports OTHP apparel. Hit me up for that inbox with our partners, Eric Kusa, or you can check out the Sports OTHP apparel page and get some of the District of Champions gear. As you see, Robbie's rocking right now. You can click on the link and go order that for yourself also. So help support the movement. We appreciate it if you check
awesome.
out the page.
You get the pillow too.
Oh,
I got
and
the
he got the
pillow.
pillow in the background. I
Yeah.
forgot about the
Yeah.
pillow. So yeah, you
Nice.
get a pillow, you get a blanket, you get the backdrop like I got behind me. It's all so much stuff that we have on our site. If you've been following my other pages, I've been posting some of the fans of the show that's been supporting and copping some of our gear. So we appreciate all the love and support that you can give us. So if you can reach out and grab some gear to help support the movement, it'd be greatly appreciated. But Robbie G, how you doing tonight, man?
Carol, I'm doing okay. I actually realized that my laptop's on the wrong Wi-Fi network, so I'm going to flip that for a second. So why don't you break down the news and notes, with some of the intro stuff, and I'm going to flip it real fast,
All
and
right,
we
no
should be good to
problem,
go.
Rob. Yeah, that's what we do, man. We cover each other. Like I said, I messed up and you got a glitch. So, hey, that's what we do. We cover each other. But we about to get in the next talk. We already got a Room B and Brian B on the line already. So we can break down this next week that was. Unfortunately, it went 2-6. Currently, they have a two-game series against Tampa Bay. They're up 3-0 right now in the top of the fourth in the first game of the series, which started at 6:05. It'll be starting at 6:05 tomorrow night also. But we also had some, I guess you can say good news to go with the bad week. Mike Rizzo signed a 3-year extension as the team executive or heading of operations or whatever you want to call it. He will be in that position until 2023. If you recall, his contract was up at the end of this season, and there were talks of an extension. Looked like they went ahead and got that deal done. I believe it was Thursday or Friday of last week. And as ironically, that was, I believe, the day after he somehow got ejected from a game when he was all the way up in the second level suites. But, with no fans in the arenas or the stadiums, the umpires can just about hear any and everything from anybody that's in the stadium at the time. If you recall, a couple of weeks ago, Strasburg, before he went on the IL, he was in the crowd, well, not crowd, in the audience, sitting watching the game, and he was critiquing some of the calls by the home plate umpire. He got ejected. Um, Annabelle Sanchez that got ejected. Well, technically, they said it wasn't an ejection, but They asked him to leave from sitting in the stadium, and Rizzo was up in the second level luxury boxes, and he made a couple of critiques on the umpires, and they ejected him for that reason. Rizzo hasn't really spoke on it, but you know how I feel about these umpires and how they feel like they're God and folks are coming out to see them and they're getting shown up and all this other stuff. So I just feel like that's just another, it is what it is. Like I said, the stadium's empty so they can hear any and every chirp that a player, coach, manager, whatever says. So I just feel like they're super sensitive. What do you think about that situation with our executive getting ejected from a game? No, yeah, I think that was that yesterday or Saturday. I can't remember. I think it was Sunday or Saturday. But
I just read the article today, so it was over the weekend, but I don't remember which game it
yeah,
was.
I think it was
But
yesterday when they lost 10-3 because it was some I've always talked about how the umpires, the balls and strikes are sometimes a little weary with their calls. So I think he was, chirping in on some of those things. I think he said it was brutal, which is not really a bad word. Nothing explicit, but the home plate umpire got in his feelings and decided to eject him. How do you feel about this current situation with the, empty stadiums and these umpires throwing out players and managers, coaches, and executives now for having an opinion or chirping about some of their calls?
yeah, it's kind of crazy. It's frustrating, right? Because I think they should pipe in more crowd noise then. Like if you can hear what one guy is chirping from one box, that's probably not enough. But obviously they can hear specifically what people are saying now, and that's getting people thrown out, I guess. So I've never seen it happen before, but usually they could never hear it. So yeah, I don't know. It's a tough call, right? I don't think that they should be throwing out general managers, but maybe the general manager shouldn't be speaking so loudly that the umpires could hear them. It's kind of a tough situation in a lot of ways, but
I mean,
uh,
it's an empty stadium. It's basically like, excuse me, basically like an echo chamber. So anything that gets said pretty much get heard with no crowd noise. You did say that they should pipe in more crowd noise like they've been doing. Hopefully they can do that to try to drown out because players and coaches and executives they live with each and every pitch. So I mean, if they feel like something isn't just or something isn't getting called right, it's a natural reaction to say something. And the fact that they're in an empty stadium and can hear basically a pin drop. I mean, you're gonna put duct tape on everybody's mouth so they can't say nothing. It's kind of crazy to me.
yeah, I don't know how loud he was shouting it, right? So that's, I guess, the part that I don't know. If he's like screaming it at the
Yeah.
guy, like, I mean, that's a little different than like hush breath, like saying it to himself, right? So it sounded like he was screaming it at the guy from what I heard. So if that's the case, then maybe, but if he's saying it like just mumbling it to himself and they can hear it and they're throwing him it, that's, I guess I'd have more of a problem with that. But I think he's just going to realize he needs to not say it so loudly in the future, So,
Yeah.
it's kind of just a funny story, but I love this story just because it's like I love that our GM is so passionate that he's talking shit on the umpires. I'm sure he would be agreeing with us that we want the electronic strike zone, but at the same time, it'll be interesting to see. I doubt it happens again, right? So.
I hope not, because I mean, like I said, you know how I feel about these umpires. Nobody's in the stadium now to come see them, but they, their ego and they feel like somebody's showing them up or trying to hurt them from doing their job or whatever, and they feel like they need to throw somebody out. Is to me, I understand things get heated sometimes, but because the stadium is empty and they can hear stuff that they normally wouldn't hear, I just don't feel it's justifiable to be, throwing anybody out. Luckily, it hasn't been any of the active players that have been thrown out of a game in the game that causing any problems. I mean, they're sitting 14-25, so I mean, they already have enough problems as is, but they haven't had any incidents where any players that was actually in the game and got thrown out. So I guess I really can't complain too much about it with it being the spectators in the stands and whatever. But like I said, I guess it's just my bias toward umpires, I guess.
Right. Yeah. I guess I give Rizzo a lot of credit for obviously winning us, this nice banner that we've got right behind me. So at the same time, I'm going to give him a pass, right? But I obviously think everyone has to represent the organization, right? So, I mean, I guess he's going to have to. I don't know. I see what you're saying though too. Like the umpire needs to have thicker skin. Like I get that you're only hearing three people talk, but like at the same time, you got to be like,
Yeah, some stuff you gotta let slide, man. You can't be
you don't
busting
care
across.
when the people are saying shit to you like 10 feet away from you, like crowds yelling stuff all the time. You can
Yeah,
let you choose to let that slide, but then again, he's not a paying customer. He's like a general manager of a team. So if they know that that's who's saying it, that might be a little different too.
Yeah, that might be some personal feelings, man. Who knows? I
So,
would definitely like to get Brian's and the room's take with our baseball talk. So you want to get ready to bring them in so I can get their opinion
yeah, they
on the
can join.
Rizzo ejection.
They should be able to join in right now.
All right.
Hey, Brian.
Hello, hello.
What's going on, Brian B? How you doing tonight, man?
I am doing well. I had a better week than both the Nationals and the Yankees this week, so I can't complain.
Nice, nice.
Glad to hear, man. Glad to hear. The room B, what's going on, man? How you doing today?
Not much. I'm having a better week than Rizzo, too. I guess we got an extension, but better day than yesterday.
No doubt, no doubt. So I guess Rune, I go to you and go back to Brian. What do you think about this ejection and these umpires throwing out, players and executives that's sitting in the stands, critiquing some of their calls just because the stadium is empty and they can hear almost a rat fart, in the corner or whatever. How do you feel about these umpires throwing out these folks in the stands?
I think it's a little bit passive aggressive because they kicked Rizzo out for not wearing his mask, even though he was yelling at them. And if you're going to kick him out of the game, just say it's for yelling at him, not for not wearing a mask because of COVID. And I guess like the umpires are probably a little bit sensitive because of, the robots are going to replace them soon. Maybe, I don't know.
It's already in the back of their mind, huh? Brian, what's your take on this? You know how I feel about the umpires. You've always been like a 50-50 guy when it comes to the umpires. You have more compassion for them than I do. So how do you feel about this situation?
This particular umpire, Joe West, I have no compassion for. I think Joe West is a terrible umpire. And personally, I actually agree with something Robbie said a minute or two ago when he said that, umpires have no problem when fans are saying stuff to them in the stands. They won't eject fans or anything. They have to sit there and take it. But, in this situation where we have no fans in the stands to, kick out a general manager is just crazy. He was, he was so far away from the field too. He was all the way up in the upper deck basically. And so it just seems like a bit of an overreaction in my opinion. I didn't know that about him wearing the mask, honestly. That's an interesting story too. I did see when I was watching the highlights today that he wasn't wearing a mask, so I can see why they might, be pissed about that because he should be wearing a mask. But I have no compassion for Joe West. Joe West is a terrible umpire and a disgrace to the game. He's proven it so many times, time after time. And, this is another crazy situation. And actually, after the game, he said that even if Donald Trump was in that booth and yelling at him, he would have thrown him out of the game, and he still would have voted for him. So not really a huge Joe West fan.
Yeah, I saw that quote also. And I'm not a Joe West fan either. I can't stand him. I feel the same way you do. And then, when I saw that quote, I was just like, that pretty much sums it up right there. I pretty much had the idea that he was probably one of those Trump guys with the way he's umpired over the few years, with the years that I've been watching when he's been umpiring a Nats game. So it wasn't a shock to me that he made that comment. I wasn't shocked at all.
Yeah, I didn't know that about him, but it doesn't surprise me. I'll say that. He's never been one of my favorites. He's always kind of made it about him. He's one of those guys that we've talked about in the past where it's just like I think he wants a little bit too much of the spotlight. I mean, the fact that we know his name so well over the years should say everything. Like his name has come up a lot. I mean, he is one of historically a better umpire for some game management stuff, but he inserts himself a lot. So not my favorite thing. So
yeah, it's sometimes uncalled for. Well, we got a full show, so let me go ahead and get ready to get into this breakdown of this past week. 2-6, they were swept by the Phillies in a 4-game series, and they split 2-4 with the Braves, which puts them at 14-25. I mentioned they're playing Tampa Bay tonight. They're still up 3-0, bottom of the third, no outs, and not sure who's at bat right now. But let me go ahead and break down this 4-game sweep in the bad way of this Phillies game. And then I'll just go to you guys after this. I'm going to just run all 4 of the games down real quick so we can get through this and get you guys in the NBA talk, because I know the playoffs are getting very interesting right now. The first game of the series was an 8-6 loss. Spencer Howard got the win for the Phillies. He's 1-1 now. He went 5 innings, giving 5 hits, 2 earned runs with 4 strikeouts and 2 walks. Eric, home run, giving up Fetty. He took the loss, going 6 innings, 4 hits, 6 runs, 4 strikeouts with 1 walk. He's now 1-3. The Nats did, muster some offense to put up the 6 runs. They had 4 home runs, 2 by Juan Soto, which gives him 11 on the year, 1 by Trey Turner, which puts him at 7, and Michael Taylor had his 3rd home run of the season. The second game of the series and the third game of the series, unfortunately, both were shutouts in a bad way. First, game 2 was Philly won 6-0. Aaron Nola, he was dealing. He went 8 innings, giving up 2 hits, no earned runs with 7 strikeouts and 3 walks. That puts him at 4-2. Patrick Corbin, who started out strong this season, took the loss, which puts him at 2-3. He went 5 innings, giving up 5 hits, 2 earned runs with 2 strikeouts and 3 walks. The bullpen gave up, 4 runs later on. That's been one of the problems with the team. Pitching has been inconsistent from the bullpen and sometimes from the starters. As I mentioned, game 3 was a 3-0 loss. That game, Zach Wheeler, I believe ex-Met, I didn't even know he signed with Philly. He went 6 2/3, giving up 3 hits, no earned runs with six strikeouts and 2 walks. That puts him at 4-0. Mad Max took the mound. Unfortunately, he took the loss that game, which puts him at 3-2. He's actually on the mound tonight. It looked like he'll be coming up shortly because the Nats just closed out the 4th inning without gaining any more runs. That puts him at 3-2. As I said, he went 6 innings, giving up 7 hits, 3 earned runs with 6 strikeouts and 3 walks. And Brandon Workman earned the save for Philly, going 1 inning, giving up 1 hit, no runs, 1 strikeout, and 1 walk. And the final game of the series, well, I was hoping the Nats would be able to, at least salvage one. Unfortunately, they weren't. They lost the game 6-5 in extra innings in the 10th. Blake Parker earned the win for the Phillies. That puts him at 3-0. He went an inning, giving up no runs, no hits, with 2 strikeouts and 2 walks. And unfortunately, Sean Doolittle took the loss. He gave the sacrifice fly in the 10th, which was the game-winning run for the Phillies. He went 2/3 of an inning, giving up, as I said, 1 run. It was unearned. I'm not sure the error that I didn't even look at what error caused that. But no strikeouts and 2 walks. It might have been the walk that manifested into a sacrifice fly later on. I didn't even go deep into it. It was such a depressing series that I didn't even really want to delve too deep into it. Brian, I'll go to you first. Phillies swept the Nats. Nats didn't look good at all in this series. Philly, pretty much ran roughshod over them. What did you take away from the 4-game series?
Pretty much what could go wrong did go wrong for the Nationals. They were pretty much shut down in this series. The one highlight, I guess you could say, of the series was the Trey Turner inside the park home run. And I thought that actually might be the play that actually woke the Nationals up in this series and, would maybe get them to that win in the 4th game. But it actually wasn't. They ended up losing that game too. Just a tough series. Your division rivals. Looking like pretty much a lost season at this point. That's probably, the season killer to get swept by Phillies, who were actually red hot. I actually watched the Phillies win today against the Mets earlier this afternoon. So the Phillies have been playing good baseball, but to lose 4 in a row to them is definitely not good for the Nationals and probably a season killer.
I definitely agree. I did forget that. I wrote that down about the Trey Turner 2-run inside the park home run. I forgot to mention. Like I said, the series was so bad. Even though I wrote it down and wanted to highlight it, I still ended up skipping over the room. What did you take away from this? As Brian probably put it correctly, the season killer for this team getting swept by the Phillies.
Yeah, Bryce Harper, before this series and 10 games ago, he said the Phillies will win 9 out of 10 games, and they did. And the Nationals at that point had lost 9 out of 10 games when the series concluded. The 4th game was pretty winnable. Robles could have thrown out the catcher of the Phillies at home, but he double clutched the throw. And they had the bases loaded, and they didn't come through, which was unfortunate. We were talking about how the Nats only Corbin and Scherzer are the only ones that pitch well. Well, if you get 0 runs, they're not going to get any wins. So that's just the way it goes. And I guess the other positive highlight was Soto hit a multi-home run game. He has more multi-home run games since the beginning of 2018 and against the Phillies than even any other Philly player. So that's pretty good. He has 3 multi-homer games in the last 3 years.
Yeah, I also did see a stat where I think he's like second on the all-time list for multi-home run games and under the 22 because he turned 21 at during the World Series, and I believe he's had 7 multi-home run games in his career so far. So I think Mel Ott is number one with 8. So he doesn't turn 22 till a little bit later. Maybe he can break that record. Have a little something to try to brighten the season. Robbie, I know you probably were deep in hockey and basketball playoffs, but did you get a chance to check out any of this series, or you just once you saw the losses, you didn't even worry about it?
Uh, I saw a little bits, right? I was flipping back and forth, and I do definitely check in on it. That Inside the Park one, we put it on our page. It got over 600 views on our page. People really love that. It's so rare to see. I just want to emphasize that. I just I can't even remember the last national to do it. I don't think he's ever done it, and he's one of our fastest. So there hasn't been many national ones in history. So I just really an incredible week by him, just putting together great offense and defense, and it was just a cool thing to see, and I'm happy that was a one real big bright spot I think for the week for us. But unfortunately, not getting any wins. And it's just tough watching that series because every year my dad and I have always gone to a Phillies Nats game. Every year, the very first game I ever went to is right over there. You can see it. It's from the very first game in Nationals history, which was against Philly in Philly. And I was there that day. And every year, I've always made it a dedication to myself. I'd go to one game between those two. And I had done it up until this year. And so that's kind of sad that streak will end because of COVID. But it's just something that whenever I watch the teams play, I'm like, man, I should be there, and so that's a little bit tougher than some of the other series are, at least for me. So.
No doubt. Well, I'm glad you did mention Trey because he's been doing some amazing things. He's hit, for the cycle twice. Now he has an inside the park home run. He's the Nats all-time franchise leader in leadoff home runs. He's still making stutter plays in the infield. He made some great plays defensively last week and offensively. So I put a post out that I feel like I don't know if the National League Player of the Week has come out yet, but I'm thinking he should be the leading candidate. And I believe 2 weeks ago, Juan Soto got it. And at that point, they were 1-2 in the batting race. Both of them having hot bats. Juan Soto was out for a couple of games. I think he's still out now with some elbow issues. He got an MRI, no structural damage or anything like that. So, Trey Turner, like I said, when they traded him and were lucky enough to get him back, and the catalyst he was on the World Series run, and just the fact that he's playing good ball, on a team that's not really playing consistent good ball. If he wasn't in that shortstop role and making some of the plays he's been making, I guarantee this record would be a lot worse than what it is now. But let's get ready to go. Oh, I didn't turn it off. Let's get ready to go into the Atlanta series where they were at least able to win 2 out of 4. The first game was a Nats loss, unfortunately, 7-1. Darren O'Day went 1 inning, giving up 1 hit, no runs, 1 strikeout, and no walks. That puts him at 3-0. Austin Voth, who's been having a tough go of it this year. Last year we saw some potential, some promise, but just hasn't been able to put it together this year. He's now 0-5. He went 6 2/3, giving up 7 hits, 5 runs, 5 strikeouts, and 2 walks. There's just really nothing positive you can say about this game at all. The second game was Nats victory. They defeated Atlanta 10-9. Wander Swirl earned his second victory of the year, going to inning, giving up no hits, no earned runs with 2 strikeouts and no walks. Will Smith took the loss. That puts him at 2-1. Went 1 inning, giving up 1 hit, 1 earned run with 2 strikeouts. And Daniel Hudson earned his 7th save of the season, going 1 inning, giving up 1 hit and 2 earned runs. He had 1 strikeout and 1 walk. Unfortunately, the Nats had enough runs. That 2-run home run, made it a little bit harder, a little bit closer, but he was able to close it out. This game for me was really kind of frustrating because the Nats had a decent lead, but unfortunately gave up a grand slam to Freddie Freeman to tie the game. Fortunately enough, Trey Turner came in the next inning and hit a solo home run to spark the offense to give the Nats a 10-7 lead. As I mentioned, they got 2-run home run in the 9th to make it closer, but it's amazing. I'm going to get your guys' take on Freddie Freeman. It's amazing that all the damage he's done, especially to the Nats over his career. That was actually his first career Grand Slam. And ironically, we'll be hearing more about.
And now he's got two.
Hey, don't. I was going to tease, Brian.
Sorry.
But unfortunately, it wouldn't be the only time his bat has caused some problems for the Nats this series. The third game of the series was another Nats win, which gave me a little bit of optimism that maybe they could turn things around. They got a little 2-game. They just came off of a 7-game losing streak, so they were able to win that one and then put together another win, which was 10-4. Kyle McGowan earned the win, his first career win as a major leaguer. He went 2 1/3, gave up no hits, no earned runs with 4 strikeouts and 1 walk. And I must say, this coming in the bullpen, we didn't know what to expect, but he definitely came out there and performed lights out that game. And that was a, pleasant surprise because we haven't seen a lot of consistency from pitching this season from the Nats. And Tyler Matzik took the loss. That puts him at 3-3. He went an inning, giving up 3 hits, 2 runs with 2 strikeouts and 1 walk. And to wrap up the series yesterday when Rizzo got ejected, Atlanta won that game 10-3. Josh Tomlin had the win with 2, and that puts him at 2-2. He went 6 innings, giving up 3 hits, 1 earned run with 2 strikeouts and no walks. And Patrick Corbin, unfortunately, took the loss, puts him at 2-4. He went 5 1/3, giving up 9 hits, 5 earned runs with 6 strikeouts and 4 walks. And that guy, Freddie Freeman, who only had 1 career Grand Slam before this series, ended up hitting the Grand Slam in this series, in this game also. I didn't get a chance to check out any of this game. I believe Corbin gave up that Grand Slam, so his second Grand Slam of his career, the second in 2 days, and all the years he's been played, he didn't have 1. So I find that kind of crazy with as much damage and as good as a hitter as he is, just to have 2 Grand Slams in his career with his stellar, performances. I had no idea. Brian, so what do you take away from this split against Atlanta, who they'll be seeing again this week for another series? What did you take away from this, and any bright spots or anything that could try to salvage this looks like lost season for the Nats in this series?
Yeah, I think that's crazy too about Freeman. He's been such a great hitter, and there's been a long history of players who have gone a really long time waiting for their first Grand Slam. Derek Jeter was another example. He went like 100-something appearances with the bases loaded and only hit his first Grand Slam 10 years into his career. So, I mean, there's a long history of guys who waited a long time for their first Grand Slam, and to finally get it for him is huge. And, I guess you could take some positives away from, winning 2 games, which is obviously a step up from what happened in Philly. But, like you said, it's still pretty much a lost season at this point. You'll take the wins as you get them. I like the way some of the kids are playing. I like the way Garcia's playing a lot still. Like ever since he's come up, he's been good. I think he's been a lot better than Carter Kieboom has this year. So I think Kieboom even got sent down a few weeks ago. So I like seeing some of the kids play this year for the Nationals. That's probably going to be one bright spot going into September. But yeah. I mean, I guess you can just take away the positive that they won 2 games in the series as opposed to how Philly went the other day.
Yeah, they went 1-5 last week and went 2-6 this week. So it's an improvement, but nothing really you can be happy about. Kai Boom did get sent down, but ironically, I believe 2 days ago, the Nats basically got rid of Wilmer Defoe and called him back up. He was actually in the game, I believe Saturday, and had some pretty good at-bats. Like I said, I've been more concerned about his fielding than his plate appearances, but they still have faith in him and brought him back up. And I guess, like you said, it's a lost season, so might as well get these young guys some experience. And yeah, you are correct about Garcia. He's been doing the damn thing. Like I said, I love, we might have a bad season this year, but they're still talented. They're still youth. They're still, something to be proud of as a Nats fan, going forward, even though, they're 11 games under 500 right now. Arun, what did you take away from this 4-game series, and any bright spots to this season so far for you or anything, or you just, chalking it up and just, like Robbie to say, it's hard to watch these losses and these, bad losses. So how do you feel about this?
Yeah, it was nice. Kieboom, he came back, got an RBI single in one of the wins, and Brock Holt got his first career hit, which was pretty cool. And as you mentioned, Hudson made it pretty nerve-wracking that game. Like, he gave up 2 runs, and that was the reason they actually lost the 4th game against the Phillies. He blew the save in that game in the 8th. But yeah, Acuna Jr., he really killed the Nats. I think he had 2 leadoff home runs. He had 2 home runs in the first game, and he let off and hit Corbin in the left thigh, and he was injured, and that's part of the reason why Corbin struggled. He says he has a sore thigh. He still managed to pitch 5 innings. No excuses at this point because the Nats are pretty bad, but that's just Acuna's a killer. And yeah, as you mentioned, Freeman, 2 grand slams. That was pretty crazy.
Yeah, I forgot to mention Acuna. He did kind of put it on the Nets this past series. You know, he's a dynamic young player. You know, he's doing the damn thing. He had 3 home runs in 2 games and a doubleheader. You know, that kind of says it all. Robbie, did you get a chance to check out any of these, that Atlanta series, or see one of the 2 wins that they were able to salvage for the week?
I was happy that they got the wins. I did not end up watching it. I enjoyed such a beautiful, wonderful weekend outside and just in the pool weather, and really enjoyed a fantastic weekend. But I did not watch the Nats as much as maybe I should. But I'm happy they were able to split the series.
Well, believe me, it's hard. It's hard. You know, I'm not a big basketball guy, so I've been having either the hockey on or the Nats. I've been leaning toward the Nats just to see what they're doing. And yeah, it's been some painful games to watch, man. But you know, we had the glory last year, had that great run. So I'm still, you know, riding high.
I'm happy we're covering them. You know, like so I'm part of it. Like, you know, I just we don't usually have the Nats in a precarious situation and playoff hockey and basketball all at the same time. And there's even like college football on tonight that I don't have a TV for, which is kind of like I wish I had a 4th one just because that would be kind of cool to watch a bit of that Navy game. Yeah, it's just a crazy sports time for sure.
All right, well, let me go ahead and wrap up with the upcoming schedule so you guys can get in the NBA. We ran a little bit over, but you know we had some technical difficulties at the beginning, so you know how that plays out.
No problem.
As I mentioned, we have 2 games against Tampa Bay. They're currently still up 3-0 in the top of the the top of the 6th. 1 out. Scherzer's still on the mound. He's, you know, not gonna say he struggled, but he's had a couple of, you know, difficult innings, but he was able to get out unscathed. Their next game is tomorrow versus Tampa Bay, which is also another 6:05 start. Then they have another 4 games against Atlanta, where maybe they can try to get some momentum if they can do something against Tampa and try to redeem themselves from the series they had last week. Thursday, Friday, and Saturday all are 6:05 starts, and Sunday is a 12:35 start. And that's pretty much it for baseball. We're going to cover tonight because we got so much to talk about with basketball, and we have some Washington football talk at the top of the hour, along with some NHL playoffs at the bottom of the 2nd hour. So I'll go ahead and get things set up on my side so you can get ready to rock and roll, and you guys can take over on the NBA Roundtable.
Sounds good. Thank you, Carol. Yeah, we actually have an extra large NBA Roundtable today. We got a special guest that I'll be bringing in just a second. We'll first bring back in our 2 typical members, Tim and DC's People's Champ. First, Tim, how are you doing tonight?
Good. Yeah, excited to join tonight and talk about the Celtics blowout game live. Hopefully it gets a little better.
Yeah, I was hoping it'll be a little better game as well. DC's People's Champ, how are you doing tonight?
I'm hanging in there, man. I'm hanging in there. I'm looking at this blowout ass whooping as well.
Yeah, it's tough, but we're going to go back a little bit in time before we get into these current series, and we'll sort of help people get to how we got here, because we got 2 Game 7s to break down first, and then we'll get into the 4 current series. I want to bring in our last and special guest, first time part of our NBA Roundtable, has been a part of our show in the past, our very first producer of Sports on the Hill podcast, the man himself, Hurt. How are you doing today, Hurt?
Hey!
Let's see if we can bring in his camera. Let me see. He's not working. Hold on. I see him on. I'm just not letting.
He's on mute still too.
Yeah, he's on mute, and he needs to hit his camera button. For some reason, it's not letting me do it for him.
Because I got to hit my camera button. I'm still learning the Zoom thing.
I
got to hit
You have to hit the camera button.
That's on me. I was ready to say, man, did I put on the shirt for no reason? Got to put the thing back on.
Nice. No, it's good. No, we let people bring their own cameras to the game. And but I appreciate the background though. That's awesome.
I've been literally working. Robbie's being modest. Robbie's been working with me to help me get that background straight for like 20 minutes now.
Yes. Well, it's good. We got it. We got there. That's the important thing. So,
That's the important thing.
how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Like every week, I'm kind of tied up on Mondays. But this week, I was like, I absolutely have to positively call you guys before, we get things rolling this season.
Yeah, for sure. I'm excited to have you on for Washington Football Talk in a little bit. But let's break down these 2 Game 7s in the Western Conference. We sort of knew most of the playoff picture last week. That was kind of the part that's that we learned a little bit about. So Arun, let's start off with the Utah Game 7-1 against Denver. What were some of your thoughts on that matchup?
Felt like that was a game where Denver was kind of like the pressure was on them in that game in the second half. They only scored 30 points in the second half, which is crazy considering I think most teams can score 30 points in a quarter. And the final score is 80-78. They were just clinging on. They even had an opportunity to ice the game and just take the foul. And the crazy thing is they went for a layup, and they missed it, and it gave Utah another last-second opportunity to have it. Mike Conley took the three, it rimmed out. Just great, it's another heart attack series for the Nuggets in the first round. They had another crazy first-round opener against the Spurs. But yeah, it was pretty crazy that Jamal Murray had 50-point games, and he only scored. The team as a whole only scored 30 points in the second half.
Yeah, Hurt, did you were you able to watch any of that Game 7 or any of that series?
I was not. I made a point not to really get into the playoffs till the first round was over, because I tried to catch the end of the NBA season a little bit. I didn't know how this thing was going to work out. I didn't know how it was going to shake out, and I was skeptical that the NBA could make it work, to be perfectly honest. I was skeptical they can make it work. I was skeptical about the competition. I was skeptical about these guys playing in the bubble as opposed to in front of their fans. But we're learning a lot about them. No home court advantage. We're learning a lot.
Yeah, for sure. Tim, what were some of your thoughts on in that Game 7 series?
Yeah, I think what Arun touched on is right. Imagine if Utah had hit that really close three that rimmed out and won the series. Denver would have been, criticizing and just, analyzing that mistake for years and years to come. It was almost one of the worst playoff mistakes you would ever see. But Denver got Harris back. That was huge for them. I think that was probably the lift they needed. And just a lot of the early games were close losses. So it was an even series throughout, except I think Game 3 was a blowout for Utah. It was, it came down to the wire. You can't really ask anything more from a series. It was weird at the end with no fans because you're kind of used to a huge cheer either way when a close game ends. And it was just complete silence. And then they walked off the court. So I can never get used to. But, the games were close. It was a nail biter. So you can't really ask for anything more.
Sounds good. People's Champ, what were some of your thoughts on that series?
Interesting series, I will say. But that's heartbreaking to be up 3-0 or 3-1 and lose 3 in a row, including losing the series clincher by 2 points. That is heartbreaking. That's about as bad as playing a game of GoldenEye and you got 1 kill left to get the victory and they kill you and win. That's how heartbreaking this is. It's crazy. But Denver showed their toughness. Coming back from a 3-1 deficit is not the easiest feat in any kind of sports series, and they managed to do it, and now they have new life. They got all the momentum going into the next round.
Yeah. So Brian, I want to get your thoughts on that, and then also start your thought on the other Game 7 between the Rockets and OKC.
Yeah, I agree with everything that's been said so far. Great series, great Game 7. If that 3 had been good by Utah at the buzzer, then we would have been criticizing Denver for years. In fact, I think we should still honestly criticize them for the decision not to, to go up for the layup like that. I still think it's a really dumb decision, and it really could have cost them the game. But I'm sure they're not complaining now because they won the series, and get to move on to play the Clippers, and then to start off the OKC Rockets talk. This was another good series. These two teams that know each other well. A lot of former Rockets used to play for the Thunder or used to be members of the Thunder. So these two teams know each other well, and it came down to a really, tight battle at the end. Harden hit some big shots as well for the Rockets, but OKC had a chance to, I believe, either tie or win at the end, and their inbound pass was they just completely messed it up, and Houston stole it, sealing the win for them. I believe they had a chance to either tie or win the game. So that was a tough break for OKC. OKC should be applauded for what they did this season. They had a very small chance at the beginning of the season. Most people did not think they were going to make the playoffs. So to get to Game 7 against a team like Houston is great for OKC. They have a lot to build towards next season. We'll see if they keep Chris Paul. They've got great players like Schroeder and Gilgeous-Alexander and Gallinari. So, that was a great series too, a great matchup. And, good for Houston for advancing.
Arun, do you have anything else to add to that with the Houston OKC game?
Yeah, it was a surprisingly really low-scoring Game 7. I think Chris Paul was really great in Game 6 with like these back-to-back step-back threes, but he didn't have it in Game 7 as far as shot making. And Lou Dort was blocked by Harden. I think Harden was actually not really that good in Game 7. I think he was like 4-15 from the field, but defense got it done for the Rockets, and on to the next one.
Yes. Tim, any other thoughts on that series?
Yeah, just like Arun said, I think it was odd that Harden won a series on a defensive play but shot terribly. It's not what you would expect because historically he's known for really bad defense, and you can even search YouTube for some lowlights. But OKC had every chance to win the game. I think they were only down 2 with a couple seconds left, and Gallinari had a free throw, which he missed, and then they screwed up the inbounds pass, kind of. So they could have potentially had a 2-point shot to win the game there, and it didn't work out. And again, it was odd to me because with no fans there, it's just a couple exciting sequences with no crowd noise, and you can hear like just crickets. It's weird. It seems anticlimactic, even though it was a really good ending there.
Yeah, sounds good. Hurt, did you watch any of that Game 7, or did you just watch the next round? You did. Okay.
Yes, I did. Because I was kind of rooting for Chris Paul. I can't tell you why. Russell Westbrook is always somebody who's rubbed me the wrong way. I can't tell you why. Harden as well. I was rooting against them. I really, 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 really wanted Chris Paul to overcome. But like you said, it's ironic that Harden played some defense. That's the first defensive play. I know he's played defense before, okay? I know that. That's the first defensive play that comes to mind when you think of James Harden ever, other than his classic flop. That's the only other defense I'm used to him playing.
For sure. Yeah, it's anyway. I'll go to DC's People Champ and see. Did you have any additional thoughts on that series before we start breaking down where these series have all ended up?
I said it last week that Houston was going to win the series. I said it, and look what happened. But it's crazy that they won it, and Harden didn't have his best shooting night. That's crazy to me. But that just shows you the type of team that Houston is. But I'm gonna tell you something: if Harden can't get his shot to go down, he gonna have a hard time against the Clippers. He gonna have a hard time. And Russell Westbrook, he's gonna have to pick up the slack too. Lakers, okay, sorry. What the Lakers is gonna be even worse because they're the top team in the West. He's gonna have a problem if he can't get his shot to go down. So he's gonna have to step it up. And he's going to have to continue to play defense, which maybe he will, maybe he won't. I don't know. But Houston, they got a lot to ask. Can they answer?
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get into the series that are now been created. So now we know the 4 matchups, and we're just going to break them down. I'm going to ask Hurt real quickly first, because I usually give each person a series that they want to break down that is their favorite series so far. So I'll ask you, since you said you watch only a couple of them, of the second round series, is there one that you've been watching more closely?
Lakers.
All right, go for it.
I saw a lot of people have been rooting against the Lakers for whatever reason. LeBron's very hateable for whatever reason. I used to be the world's biggest LeBron James hater. That was before he went to Miami. Before he decided to go to Miami, I hated him. From the moment he whispered in Gilbert Arenas' ear, I hated him. Let's start there, okay? But I respect his game. I respect how hard he works, and I respect that he is the best player on the floor every time he plays against whoever. Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, James Harden. LeBron is the best in the game right now. That's all there is to it. With that being said, I found it funny that people jumped out of the water when Houston, who had just played a couple nights ago, beat the Lakers, who haven't played in like a week. I'm like, these people obviously have never played any major sports. If you have that long of a layoff, you are going to have some rust. And I told people, I said, I can see Houston winning the first 2 games. After that, nunzo. I think it's going to be a 5 or 6 game series. So for the Lakers to beat them the second game, and the final score isn't indicative of how bad the Lakers were beating them. The Lakers were beating them so bad, they took their foot off the gas. Houston made some shots, started coming back. LeBron took over, and we're done there. The Lakers are going to win this series in 6, tops. I wouldn't be surprised if it was 5. And then the next series, when they go up against the Clippers, it's going to be the exact same thing. I'm sorry, that's a spoiler. When they go up against the Clippers, it's going to be the same thing. They're going to be rusty because they haven't played in a while. People are going to say, oh, the Clippers, this is the super team that was assembled to beat LeBron. They're going to lose also. But I'm getting ahead of myself. That's not my series. I'm sorry.
Right. Everything you said, I agree with. I was always a big Kobe fan, and usually if you're a Kobe fan, you're not a LeBron fan. Yeah, usually there's sort of 2 camps there.
I'm a stat fan. I don't like Kobe or LeBron. Let's be clear.
Okay,
I don't like either one of them.
There are some that don't like either. I will admit, but but people that are diehard Kobe tend not to like LeBron.
They do not. Yes, same.
And I also was a Wizards fan way back with Gil and all of the whisper thing. Hated him for that. Hated him for the whole entire decision movement all the way there. When he went back to Cleveland and won it for his hometown, I was more okay with that. And now he's said a lot of the right things since coming to LA. So I have to say, as much as I was a huge hater before, I've kind of come around and I'm rooting for the Lakers because they're trying to do this for Kobe. And I hope that they are able to. So they're kind of the team in the West that I've been pulling for. But I agree. I think 6 is a very good. I thought they would lose the first one, just like you said, win 2, lose 1, and then win 2 more. And then win it in 6 that way.
That makes that I can believe that more than people really thought they were going to get swept. Same with Portland. People thought Portland was going to sweep them, and it was like, why? Why would you think that? Because they had one great Dame, one great Dame, not even a great game, just a great Dame. It's Dame time. He's putting out mixtapes. You know what I'm saying? He's on iTunes and he's talking trash on YouTube. And then now he's at home and he can work on an album.
Right. Sounds good. All right. So I'm going to give you I'm going to give you the Clippers series. Let me know what you're thinking about this Denver Clippers matchup so far.
I think it's going to be an interesting series. I think the Clippers are still favored despite the Nuggets coming back and winning game 2. Jokic and Jamal Murray each had like 25 points in the first half or something ridiculous like that. But Kawhi had his worst game probably of his this year's playoffs. Paul George even had more points than him, which was pretty crazy. Like Kawhi had like 13. But Denver was down and out. They were down 3-1. Like I still give them a shot, but Jokic just injured his wrist, which is a shooting wrist. So I think the Clippers, if they're on defensively, like they need to turn it up. I think they played the Nuggets even after the first quarter. They can't afford to get down by 20 points in the first quarter. They have to play a good full 4 quarters. And I think they should take care of the Nuggets.
Sounds good. I wish we had time where everyone could get everyone's thoughts on each of the games. I'm going to give everyone a final thought. So I'm just going to give one series to each one of you to begin with, and then a final thought just because we're trying to condense this segment. We could talk NBA playoffs. It's been very exciting all night. Tim, I'm going to give you the current series right now, the Celtics-Raptors series. It's tied 2-2. I thought this game would be much closer. We're at halftime at 62-35 Celtics right now. What are your thoughts on this series?
Well, I mean, it's really close to being a closeout game potentially tonight. Like, Boston could have won probably all 4 of the first games. Obviously, it looks like they're going to win tonight and have a closeout game next. But, you could also say they deserve that first loss with the way they defended that imbalance pass. They put Taco Fall on the passer, which did nothing positive, and then they just left Anunoby wide open. It was a great 3. I mean, he couldn't even really take a full set shot. He had to just kind of heave it up like an ugly grandpa shot, but it went in. And, it just shows NBA games don't really matter until the last possession or 2. But you have to give the edge to Boston now, especially because they're going to be up 3-2. And they really have been the better team. I mean, Toronto has a lot of kind of mojo and a chip on their shoulder because people wrote them off this year. But Boston has been a great team, and I think, they have a good shot of getting to the finals and giving the Western team a good battle. So I think Boston will probably end up winning 4-2. I hope it goes 7, but I see Boston winning tonight and the next game.
Sounds good. Brian, I want you to help me break down the Heat and Bucks, but then after that, People's Champ, I'll let you think about this question. You can talk about any of the series you want. You just give me what, keys to that series that you want to see happen. But Brian, before we get to that, this Heat Bucks one has been sort of the biggest surprise to me. I can't believe the Heat are up 3-1, and they almost actually swept. I would never have guessed it going into the series. And now there's an injury potential situation to the Greek Freak. Brian, help me break down this Heat Bucks series.
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely the surprise so far. Milwaukee came into the bubble as the best team in the NBA, but since they've been in the bubble, they've really struggled. I believe they're 7-9 since they've been in the bubble. So they have not been playing their best basketball, and the Heat are actually a very good team. They have a complete roster from top to bottom, a lot of depth, not just in their starting 5. They've got players off the bench that are great too. And, they can drain the 3 with the best of them. They can play defense with the best of them. I mean, the Miami Heat are a very good team. And, I'm not surprised they have a series lead, but I am surprised they went up 3-0. And that game yesterday was great too. A really great back and forth game. And then, of course, Giannis goes down with the injury. Giannis was actually coming into game 4. He was dealing with a sprained ankle. So there was questions as to whether they were going to actually play him or not. And they ended up playing him, and then he ended up getting hurt and missing the rest of the game in game 4. But Chris Middleton really put the team on his back. He hit a huge 3 at the end to give the Bucks the win. And now all eyes are on Giannis for game 5. Will Giannis play game 5? If he does, you got to give Milwaukee a slight chance. But the Heat have been great. Like, even in defeat yesterday, the Heat really did look good going to overtime. Tyler Hero has been great for them in big spots. Jay Crowder, players like that. So it's been an interesting series so far. But I wouldn't say it's over yet. I would not say it's over.
Sounds good. All right, DC's People's Champ. The homework. What is your verdict? What is the series you want to talk about?
Well, I really like this series with the Bucks and the Heat because it's so intriguing, the fact that the top seeded team in the East is on the brink of elimination. And if it wasn't for role players like Middleton and them doing what they did yesterday, we'd be talking about the top seeded team going home. But they're a completely different team without Giannis. And if they don't have Giannis, they may squeak out game 5, but they're not winning the series. They're not winning the series. I'm predicting Boston, Miami in the next round. That's my prediction right now. Boston, Miami is going to be the next series, and that's going to be a great series.
Sounds good. All right, I'm going to give each one of you guys a final thought in Arun, Hurt, Tim, and People's Champ, and then I'm going to talk soccer for 2 seconds with Brian Brennan, and then we're going to switch to football, and then Hurt will bring you back after we bring Dujanet in. So final thoughts. We'll start off with Arun. What is your final thoughts about any of these series or anything that you want to put out there?
Yeah, I thought it was interesting that Lou Dort has the most points for an under 22 player, like in a game 7. He passed with 30 points. He passed LeBron and Kobe Bryant. It's a really weird stat for an undrafted rookie. And then Dante DiVincenzo unleashed plus 22 when he was on the court for the Milwaukee Bucks. So I think that series would be an even series without Giannis going before, which is interesting. Without Giannis, I think it's going to be pretty tough for the Bucks to pull it out.
Sounds good. All right. Thank you, Arun. We'll talk to you again next week.
Sure. Thanks for having me on.
All right, Tim, what your final thoughts?
I just think the NBA has been really intriguing so far. It's going to be odd if there's an LA versus LA Western Conference Finals and none of them are in the Staples Center. They probably have to travel even a little bit farther from their rooms to get to these games. But I just hope the series continue to stay close and we get these really good late series games. But I think it's gonna stay really interesting, and a lot of these series are gonna go long, which is what the fans want. So glad they're not getting Corona. Glad they're playing. Glad it's close.
Yeah, no, it's been a really great NBA bubble so far. I agree with Hurt, what he was saying before. We didn't know if it was going to work out, and so far it has. Thank you, Tim. We'll have you on next week.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Yeah, appreciate it. All right, Hurt, we'll go to you next. Give your final thoughts on the NBA, and then we can get your general final thoughts after the NFL segment. But any other thoughts you have on the series?
The Lakers are going to win the championship, and you're going to see a bunch of people say that this season shouldn't count. Not now, but later. A few years down the line, they're going to say, oh, yeah, the Lakers won that 1 year they were in the bubble. That season shouldn't even count. It's going to happen, especially since their number one competition, Giannis, not going to make it out of another game. I'm surprised I'm surprised he didn't get swept.
Sounds good. All right, sounds good. Well, we'll bring you back in for the end of our NFL talk. So thank you so much for being a part of it.
All right, I'm going to hang out.
All right, sounds good. All right, DC's People Champ, let people know what's happening on your podcast this week.
Well, this weekend, we're going to be talking about All Out and why it was a disappointment when it was supposed to be an A pay-per-view. We're going to talk about the field that's being announced this week for the New Japan G1 Climax 30 tournament coming up starting mid-September. And we are going to find out and tell you who became the 62nd IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team Champions. That show happens this Saturday, but we'll talk about it this Sunday on No Spots.
Thank you so much. We'll talk to you next week.
Yep.
All right, Brian, we've got like 2 minutes to talk soccer, but we have a time slotted. So I'm happy that we got to even talk soccer for a second.
Excellent.
So let's talk about the goal that happened in the final moments and what a call it was for DC United in the first game of last week. What were some of your thoughts on the big sort of decision at the end of the game there?
Honestly, I didn't see it, so I'm not sure what you're necessarily talking about.
So,
I'm sorry, man.
You're my big soccer guy. I was expecting you to.
I know. I'm sorry, but
to watch it.
I can talk about yesterday's game a little bit and how DC United are just really struggling. They didn't have any shots on goal yesterday, so against New York City, and there's more pressure mounting on their coach right now, Ben Olsen. Ben Olsen's been associated with DC United for a long time. First as a player and as a coach, and now there's nothing but pressure on him. If you look on any Instagram post on DC United's Instagram page, all the comments are Olsen out. So the fans want their coach gone. They want change at the club. We'll see what happens. Obviously, this is going to be a tough year because they're without Wayne Rooney now, who was such a big part of their team. And it has looked rough. They have looked very rough. To get no shots on goal is absolutely embarrassing against NYCFC. It's a miracle it was a 0-0 draw. honestly, because that's a terrible. That's just bad for DC United.
Yeah, for sure. The other one, just if people missed out what I was talking about, there's a goal. I actually posted it on our Facebook page, facebook.com/SportsOTHP, or search Sports on the Hill podcast. It was a goal, and I believe the 100th minute of the match, and it was an exciting. It was 90+8 by Eric Sorga, and they scored. It was against the Red Bulls, which is why I thought that you would have known about it.
I'm an NYCFC fan.
I realized that after I said it. Because you used to follow them a little bit. The
little
Red Bulls.
bit, yeah. But NYCFC kind of became my team over time. They play at Yankee Stadium, so as a Yankee fan, I kind of had a natural connection to them. But yeah,
sounds good. All right. Hopefully they'll continue to win. It was unfortunate that they lost that one other game, but it's the schedule in the upcoming week. There's another game against the Red Bulls on Saturday, September 12th. And that's the last game I see on this schedule, but I know that they are playing other games, but I don't know if they've been released yet, what the dates are for those.
Yeah, I think MLS still has to figure out some things with the schedule. There's a lot still in play. Like, for example, there's 2 teams playing in Canada, or 3 teams playing in Canada that are going to have to play games in the U.S. How's that going to work out? There's a lot of questions right now with MLS too.
Sounds good. All right, Brian. Well, we'll bring you back in for NHL talk in a little bit. Thank you so much.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. All right. Does that work? All right. So let me see. All right, we got there, and Dugenet is back. Awesome. Yes, I like your fancy background there, Dugenet. Okay, very cool. I think we got all of us on the thing. Hurt, can you turn on and off your camera for just 1 second? I just want to reset something. And then it should. And then if you turn it back on, there we go. We figured it out. We played the jigsaw puzzle with the camera.
Oh, gotcha.
Sounds good. All right, Carol, break down this NFL segment. I'm actually going to jump off and let the 3 of you guys, since I'm so happy that 3 great NFL minds can have on one thing, I might take a step back and just watch you guys break down this season that I'm so excited for, but I have no idea what to expect.
No doubt, no doubt. I wasn't expecting Big Hurt to be on tonight, but hey, Big Hurt, how's it going, man? We ain't talked in a while, man. We both been busy as hell, man.
Yo, so busy. I literally didn't know I was going to be available until 5 minutes before I called Robbie and asked if I could jump in.
Sounds good, man. You know we always love having you on, man. We got to do some more work, especially with the season coming up. Dugenet, yes, sir. Dugenet, how you doing, brother? First time on a Zoom call. You've been with us from just about the beginning on Sports in the Hill. I love the breakdown background in the back too, brother. Looking nice. How you doing today, man, with all that crazy Florida weather and staying out them hurricanes? I think you got your mic. Hey, make sure your mic not muted, Dugenet.
Oh, there we go.
All right, cool.
It's been good. It's hot, super hot, but
what else could you expect out in Florida? But I know you showed on time tonight. That's why I'm glad Hurt's here, so we can definitely chop it up for a good 30 minutes talking some football. But we had the final 53-man cut down this past weekend, and there were, a surprise with AP, the Washington football. I'm trying not to say the R word because we know that's no longer available. Last week I had a six show hiccup, so I'm gonna try to improve from that one last week. But Adrian Peterson ended up they let him try to find work elsewhere because they are happy with the youth and the backfield that they have now. He signed with Detroit for a year. I believe it's a $1 million deal with incentives of like $2 million. To me, there really weren't too many other big surprises on the cut list. I'm gonna go ahead and go through the positions real quick with the numbers, and because that was always the question: how many wide receivers, how many running backs, how many offensive linemen they would carry, and then we'll break down and I get some of your guys' thoughts on this final roster. They'll be carrying 3 quarterbacks, 4 running backs, 5 wide receivers, 3 tight ends, 4 defensive tackles, 5 defensive ends, 6 linebackers, 6 DBs, 4 safeties, and 3 special teams players. I guess before I go to you, I guess I'm not going to say bigger surprise, but the fact that they're carrying 3 quarterbacks, we knew the Alex Smith situation with his contract that he wasn't going to get cut, but there was a possibility they would be able to put him on IR and, whatever, if they didn't think he was physically able. But as I said over and over again, he's had a miraculous recovery. I said when the injury happened that he would probably never take another snap at quarterback, and I have no problem being wrong with that because to me he's one of the most courageous, will-powered person, player, athlete, whatever you want to call it, that I've ever seen for him to come back from that injury and actually be able to still play. So, Hurt, I'll go to you first before I go to Dujane. Was there any surprises to you on this roster? And how do you feel about the Alex Smith situation? I haven't got to pick your brain on that before.
The two surprises for me was one, Alex Smith. Alex Smith making the roster. I was a little surprised, but we didn't get to see anything. The thing about this year is you can't really base anything. We can't base anything off of what we see. For instance, last year, as you all know, I predicted 51 of the 53-man roster because they only carried 51. But I got everybody right, including the two people that we let go of, even though, one of them hopes we shouldn't have let go of. But that's neither here nor there. This year, we kind of had to go off of what happened last year and draft picks because we didn't have any game film to see. So Adrian Peterson, to me, was the only real surprise. And it's the same thing. It's, this guy was your lead running back. You are essentially cutting him for somebody who's unproven. Either way you slice it. Bryce Love is unproven. Gibson is unproven, although I hear he's nasty in camp. But we're going off what we hear. So listen to Adrian Peterson talk about it, and he basically said that if they had come to him and told him, hey, you're only going to get 1 or 2 snaps a game, he didn't know how he would feel about it. Tells me it was probably the right decision to let him go.
Definitely.
Probably.
Yeah, I mean, you want to give a veteran a chance to, see if he can get some work elsewhere. And
he did.
Yeah, I agree. Dujane, me and you spoke about Antonio Gibson in great detail when they drafted him, and you talked about the potential that he had to be a game breaker for this team. So in this roster breakdown, was there any surprises for you? Anybody that caught you off guard besides the Adrian Peterson, waiting?
No. I've watched Gibson at Memphis and had the opportunity to see him up close at the Senior Bowl. I told the story. He was initially in the wide receiver group. They had a guy drop out, and they moved him over to running back group. And you saw what he did in the game. But he's done that all his career in Memphis. So I'll say this. See, too often this team has kept guys who are older, and this is not a slight against AP, but they kept guys who are older because of sentimental value and let go of guys who, and I know we say it's potential, but still, you don't get better in this league by not keeping the guys who have talent and then developing them if they are potentially able to help your football team. I say it's a surprise that he's gone, but it's not a surprise. And we talked about it, Carol, a little bit. With him, Hurt made a good point about him wanting, not feeling too comfortable with having, not as many carries. He's a guy who needs to be fed. And I think it's a numbers game here, and it's also a talent game. You got youth that you want to start developing. You want to start pushing this youth movement. We've too often band-aided this thing over and over again. And that's what they've done. But they gave the guy an opportunity to go somewhere else. He still wants to play, and I get that. But in this situation, I think that's the right move. I know Hurt said hope, but I think it is. Too often we worry about those things, and you just got to roll the dice and do it and see if you can actually succeed. If you don't and fall on your face, that's fine. But it's never been done here. Other than that, I don't think there's any other surprises. I think it's been, pretty much true what we thought would happen here. And I like the young talent on this football team and the potential.
Definitely. That's one of the things that I did notice too with the youth. I think I said they're the 14th youngest team in the league right now after, letting AP go and with the draft picks that they kept on the squad. And I think that's one of the differences we're seeing with Rivera that he's going to give these guys a chance because, like you said, you can't keep on trying to, relive a veteran's, heyday when he's in his 30s and thinking he's going to be able to, hit the fountain of youth and miraculously be able to go back to what you saw in his prime and what he is now. So, I mean, that's why I kind of think with the wide receiver core, that's one of the 60% of it is undrafted. They only kept 5 wide receivers. And, the fans have been clamoring about no real threat in the passing game. But in my opinion, they still have the Jay Gruden mindset of, the things that he tried to do. When you have a true coach with a game plan strategy and has been in this position before and it was truly an NFL head coach, not an arena football league coach, that those things are going to change. And with Scott Turner and the way that he calls the game plan with Christian McCaffrey last year, putting up 1,000 yards rushing and 1,000 yards receiving, that just lets you know how much they plan on feeding the running back. And I saw something about they were going to be using a lot of 2 running back sets. I guess I'll ask you guys about the wide receivers since we spoke about them. With Terry McLaurin being really the only real, threat that folks are worried about, what do you think about this youth movement in the wide receiving core? Because I know I looked at tape on Isaiah Wright, and he was an undrafted guy that we picked up, and he amazed me on film. He reminded me of a Tyreek Hill, in fact. And then, the Sim, was it Cam Sims that kept him. And, it to me, I think this wide receiver core is going to surprise some people. Dujane, what do you say?
You're right about Wright. He's definitely a good player. He's definitely a good player. Balls out. Steven Sims Jr., we saw him have his moments when they utilized him properly. My guy is Antonio Gandy Golden. The guy can ball. He's got the height. He's got the ability. And no, he doesn't have the that electrifying speed. But the thing that I always talk about is his ability. And I put an article out about him, and I had a couple of people like, his route running. Well, obviously you haven't been paying too close of attention to the guy. That's one thing that has been when we talked to him at the Senior Bowl, is one thing that was a focal point. That's one thing he does do well, though, especially at the top of his routes, understanding that it's all about body position, how you work a guy to get open. And he does that very well. If they can continue to build on those potential things, I think they're going to have a nice, solid wide receiver that can be a good complement to Terry. And then you have Steven Sims or Wright, who could be a solid slot. And then you've got the Inman, who's just the elder statesman, a guy who goes in, takes his lunch pail to work, does an excellent job of, taking care of his business, but he also is going to provide a little knowledge to those young guys and help polish them as well, because, his name doesn't jump out there at you because of, whatever. But the bottom line is he's able to work. He understands the offense quite well. And, you got to kind of have those elder statesmen, those journeymen that know how to work, know how to go out and prepare for games and kind of pass that knowledge down to these young guys. So I think they've done an excellent job there.
Definitely. And another quick point on AGG. I believe I read something that he actually took dance or something, and that helps him with his route running, that, his footwork and the things that make him a precise route runner. So the folks that were saying that obviously don't know what they were talking about. Big Hurt, what do you think about these this young wide receiver core and this youth movement? How do you feel about
it? I love the youth movement. I've always had a problem with, I understand that every position needs some leadership, but I don't know if every position needs that older leadership, especially if they're going to be taking snaps away from somebody who can build into something else. The one message that Adrian Peterson being cut gave to everybody was, we want people on this team who are the future. We want to give snaps to the future. Everybody on this team has a future. So I like the young core, and I like the thought of them being thrown to the wolves and having to find themselves together. I think in 2 or 3 years, you're talking about the best wide receiver core in the game. I'm very, very interested to see what AGG does. I always liked, Terry's already proven that he's been good. Hopefully he can prove that wasn't a fluke here and that he's just, naturally nasty. I also have a thing for Harmon. I always did. And Sims. So I think we're going to be good.
I definitely agree. I've always said that you got to get the youth on the field. They can't get any experience sitting on the bench by some old guy that's barely, getting it done. I guess I'll go before we go to defense, because we got to talk about some defense before Dujanay get out here. Is there? I know the tight end group has been, an issue for this team. Jordan Reed is no longer here. Thaddeus Moss ended up getting injured reserved, and we spoke about his potential, but apparently the tight end coach, with him being injured, didn't really see that hunger doing whatever he needed to do in rehab or whatever, and they ended up putting him on injured reserve, and his season's pretty much done. I wrote down the tight end's name. That's how bad it is. I can't remember their names, but I wrote them down. But I can't find the paper I wrote it down though. So, Dujanay, how do you feel about this tight end group? And do you think, especially with the offensive line being in flux, we know how the tight end is so crucial to a quarterback and to the offensive line. What do you see from the tight ends that they decided to keep? And with Ron Rivera and Scott Turner, how do you see this offense, evolving with all these inexperienced, young, talented folks they have on the squad now?
Well, I think a lot of people thought that Logan Thomas was going to be the guy that they were really going to keep for sure. I know people are kind of, I even myself, a little bit leery of Sprinkle's ability to make this roster. But the surprise, I guess it's not a surprise, but Marcus Ball, he's the third tight end. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. I've always had a thing for Sprinkle. I think he's better than he's shown. He has all the abilities, has everything that you want. You just want him to attack more, be more aggressive. It just seems like sometimes he's a little lazy with some of the things that he does. If he was more aggressive and act like a big man, snatching the ball, attacking the ball while it's in the air, attacking the route, doing more to keep his opponent off balance. I think that would help him a lot, and maybe he'll start to develop and move forward as this new coaching staff begins to do more tutoring, more teaching, it seems like it's a competition for real for a lot of these people, so they're going to have to go out here and put some work in. And as Hurt stated, he liked the fact that these guys are coming out here, they're young, and they're going to have to kind of learn on the fly and learn as a team together. And I think that's going to be huge for everyone involved here. And I think this tight end group could potentially be an interesting unit. I think it could be a surprise unit as well, because we all know how important that is. So with the combination of the versatility in the backfield, with these tight ends that seem to be guys that are big, athletic, kind of your basketball type guys, if they can get more out of them, get them more polished, more aggressive, more attacking, I think they could have something here.
Definitely. A quick scoring update before I go to you, Hurt. The Nats are up 6-1 in the bottom of the eighth with no outs, and Thames is at the bat. And if you're watching the Eastern Conference Finals for hockey, the score is tied 1-1 between the Islanders and Tampa Bay. They just went to commercial break. Hurt, what is your take on the tight end group, the offensive line, and this new youth movement on offense, and how do you think it's going to pan out?
I don't think it could have been stated. I don't think it could have been stated enough. Like Brendan was dead on. I didn't think Sprinkle was going to make the team. I've never been impressed with him. I also think he's lazy. He lets the ball come to him. He does not go to the ball. It's a lot about him I don't like. I was upset that he got the spot that Holt should have gotten last year. He never showed me anything all season long. Nothing. Not one time. Not on blocking, not on catching, not on pass protection. There was nothing he showed me that made me think, oh, okay, this is what they got him. This is why they got him. Oh, okay, the future's looking bright. Okay, he can develop into something. Nothing ever told me that. I hear Thomas is pretty decent. As number one, I actually drafted him in the Hertz House Fantasy Football League, which I plan on winning. I drafted him as my number two tight end. besides Zach Ertz, of course. But I think he's going to do the job, and I think Sprinkle has a short window, a very short window, to show us that he's worthy of the position he's been given.
Definitely, yeah. Sprinkle, he has the size, and I thought he would be more, but as both of you said, he's not aggressive. He doesn't really make his mark. He doesn't really, play like a big guy. So I definitely can agree with those statements you made. Now, got to get to the defense. I know Dujanay's short on time, so we got to get on this defense, man. I can't wait to see, what this defense can do with the new 4-3 and, Allen Payne and Ioannidis and Chase Young. It's just going to be amazing. Were there any surprise cuts or roster moves on the defensive side before we break this down? Dujanay, I go to you first.
Yes and no. The yes is and that's in the reference to fans, and that may not be all of them, but I think Troy Apke to fans is a surprise. I really kind of like the guy. He made some plays late last year. He was finally in position to do what he does best. And if they can hone in that, maximize what he does well, I think he can be a really good staple for this team over there at the Free. Other than that, man, a lot of these guys that we saw during the Gruden era that we knew that were ballers that were coming out and making plays, at least making an attempt, even though the scheme was absolutely horrid. These guys stayed, and the ones that were not, they went out. So I don't think there's any surprises other than the Apke thing. And that, like I said, to me, no, but to fans, that probably is a surprise. Other than that, I really like this defense, and I just can't wait to see what Jack Del Rio schemes up for him. I mean, there's a ton of talent. And again, your front seven is probably it's quite nasty. It's quite nasty on paper. And if that thing comes together like we think it can, like we thought it could over the last 2 seasons, your back half, who cares? I mean, I'll go out and I'll get hurt, you and I, and go out there and cover all Pro Bowlers out there, baby.
No doubt, no doubt. I guess I piggyback before I go to Hurt. I guess Reuben Foster was the biggest surprise for me because we heard so much about how good he was looking at camp and everything, and then to get injured. I don't know what the injury was, but then to get designated injured reserve right at the end of camp and never to play one snap for the Washington football team. I guess that was the surprise for me. What about you, Hurt, in this defense? What do you see, and what was the surprise on the defense for you?
Same as far as surprises. I kept hearing that Reuben Foster, this was going to be his year. I was looking forward to it. I know it was going to be a redemption story of sorts for him. And I was thinking, we could still get him. He's probably in the decline skill-wise because he's getting a little older. But we could probably still get 2 or 3 good years out of him. Maybe just the tail end of his twilight, but not meant to be. And the real IR, not the new age IR where you can come back in a couple weeks. They put him on the classic IR, never to be heard from again. So this has some Mike Barrow implications to it. For those of you who've been watching Redskins for a long time, another linebacker that we got who never took a snap, 3 years on IR, and thanks for coming. It can't be stated enough, so I'm going to say it exactly the way it was said. This front seven has the potential to be nasty front seven. Ioannidis was supposed to be like rotational help, but he's looking like a starter. You still have Payne, you still have Allen, you got Chase Young. It's going to be problematic because if there's a weakness on your offensive line, there's going to be penetration. The cornerbacks are going to be able to press up on the receivers of the other team. None of this 10 yards off the ball nonsense that we've been seeing over the last 5 years, that's finally gone. They're going to be able to beat up on them because the quarterbacks aren't going to have the time they've had. It's not feasible. It's not possible. And on top of which, Del Rio's probably going to give us schemes that we haven't really thought of.
True exotic schemes.
True exotic. Yes. Not we say it's exotic, but it's just nickel. True exotic schemes.
Exactly, where you would see, the outside linebackers, the linebackers, the blitzers, coming from different positions, not just on the ends, on the tackles, but attacking the guard, attacking the center, and doing all. That's why I can't wait with Jack Del Rio, knowing how creative he is and the things that he's done in this league as a coordinator. I just can't wait. Like you mentioned the back end with Apke, yeah, that was definitely I've heard good things. Heard he was laying the wood to some folks, put a couple of players out door.
Yeah, a little bit too much wood.
He laid the wood. Or we spoke about Cameron Curl out of Arkansas. We saw that. I see that he made the team, and I think this secondary is going to be better than folks anticipate. Because I think they have a lot of the Jay Gruden hangover and the inept defensive coordinators that he had, because we know of his hate for having someone with having more knowledge on his staff, so he would bring in lesser guys. Now that you have a competent coach with a competent defensive coordinator that understands what needs to be done, I think this back end is going to surprise some folks. What we talked about the potential of this defense with front seven, but do you think this team, with we got to take the COVID no preseason factor into it, and we know that's going to stagnate some of these offenses that are trying to always know offense takes a little bit longer to get going than defense. Defense is read and react. Offense is timing and chemistry. So if this team can get off to a hot start with facing these teams that's going to have some offensive issues, do you think this defense could be a potential top 10, maybe top 5 defense with that extra COVID situation going on? Brian, I go to you first, and I go to you, Dude.
I expect this defense to be no less than top 10. I'm hoping for top 7, top 5. That's hope, but no less than top 10. Just on the pressure alone. The pressure alone is going to give us the ability to run the ball more, not have to run the ball more, because we know that Rivera has some exotic run schemes also. But the running game's not going to be an afterthought. And on top of that, this team always had some talent. We just never game planned. We never, ever game planned because Jay Gruden didn't know how to game plan. I keep telling people, I think when it's all said and done, you're going to see that we had some historically bad head coaching. Because the turnover of the team wasn't that heavy. Let's be clear. We lost a Hall of Fame left tackle. You know what I'm saying? But other than that, we have pretty much the same team we had last year. We didn't have any huge free agent acquisitions. We got some draft picks, but I think you're going to see that a lot of these people who were here the last few years losing because they were doing all they could with all they had are going to surprise people. And we're going to know where the problem was. A guy who's a great coordinator, has a great scheme, but doesn't know how to use his own scheme the right way.
I can't even put that word great in front of him, Hurt. I can't. He was good in Cincinnati. I can't give him great, and I feel like he was good because Marvin Lewis reined him in and made him run the ball and to keep more balance in the offense. I never considered Jay Gruden great, but
you know what? I concede that point.
Yeah, you know how I feel about Jay. Dude, your name. How do you feel the same question?
I've been talking about this since Rod Marinelli's defense in Dallas. It's all I need to say there. They have had and historically have had guys who are not great at corner and safety. They've had that problem, and Jerry refuses to draft guys for that. But their front seven getting after guys consistently. They got after guys consistently when their offensive coordinator, their head coach would run the football correctly and allow things to organically happen in the passing game. You saw that fail and that's going to happen to any football team when they get unbalanced and they don't have that success with the passing game and they get behind, etc. So I'm with Hurt on this. There's no ifs, ands, or buts that this team can be top 10. Dallas has been top 10 easy over the past 10 years, at least consistently. Why? Because they got big boys up front and know how to scheme for those boys up front. And those boys up front, they had 1 or 2 guys that were like Studs, the rest of the guys are complementary guys, but they work within the system because you know and you scheme up ways to get those guys loose to do what? Exactly what Hurt said. Put pressure on the quarterback. It's a cliche saying, but pressure busts pipes, baby. That's what happens.
Amen.
Gary looks so much better when your front seven is getting after it, and you don't need studs back there to get the job done. But you do need guys that can get it done up front. But you don't need studs there. This team has studs, potential studs that have proven it in college, and they have studs that have proven it here. They just have to be schemed right. And poor coaching has been a problem. And I think, just like Hurt said, we're going to see that the talent has always been on this roster. The coaching has not even been subpar. It's been quite putrid because game plans are basically dog crap.
You know how many times we can talk about that, but let's get ready to wrap up. Is you got to get the hockey talk. I know Dujanay, you got some stuff. I know Hurt, you probably got some stuff. But parting final question, Dujanay, I go to you first, and I go to you, Hurt, and you can give your shout out to where they can find you at after you give your answer. What do you see for this team? I don't know. I'm not going to say final record, but do you see them at least finishing? Not finishing dead last, maybe even giving some competition for the NFC East crown? Or where do you see this team finding itself at the end of the season with Ron Rivera, this youth movement, and actually, like you say, having a game plan and a true coach in this position?
I see them 9-7, 1 game out of the playoffs. 9-7, 1 game out of the playoffs. That's where I see them. They will not finish the NFC East last. That will go to the Giants once again. And honestly, I think they also finish above the Eagles. I think this is Dallas's division to lose. I think the Redskins and the Eagles fight for second and third. Giants way in the back.
All right, let them know where they can find you at Hurt. And I know the season starts, so go ahead and get your plug in, brother.
Look, man, I don't even know where to find myself right now, man. Y'all probably want to see me on Sports on the Hill more. You see me doing my thing. Look, follow the page Hurt's House on Facebook. I will be doing some pop-up podcasts as the season goes on, as breaking news happens. I will be giving my hot take on things. But that's about it, man. Just, I'm hanging back. Look. Sports on the Hill took the reins of sports. And I'm able to sit back and talk about things that I want to talk about a little bit more.
Sounds good, brother. You always welcome on Monday nights. If you want to call in, Monday night, when the season started, and give your critique. If we can get me, you, and Dujan every week, bro, we're going to get these DC sports media run for their money because I know we put out better content than they got.
Make sure you guys enter the Hurt's House Pick'em. Make sure you enter the Pick'em. I'm going to post it again on my Facebook fresh. And I'm also going to post it on the Hurt's House page fresh. The link to the Pick'em. Make sure you get on it.
No doubt. Yeah, I did the fantasy football draft. It was kind of hard because I was doing the show live and I kept on missing my damn draft pick. But I got an interesting team. I'm not saying I'm going to take you out, but I'm a damn sure give y'all a run for it like I did last year.
I like your team. I like your team better than some of my regulars. I like your team a lot.
Hey, man, appreciate it. Yeah, I haven't dibble-dabbled in fantasy as much as I used to, but you got me back into it, so I'm definitely going to try to do my best and bring pride from Sports on the Hill podcast to the Hurt's House invitation.
Those you don't know, CP3 took over a team last year. I made the mistake of letting a millennial into my fantasy league because he talked me to death about how he would come in and dominate. And in true millennial form, 4 games into the season, he was 1-3, and he was like, I'm just going to quit. And CP3 took over his team and almost made the playoffs. Went from 1-4 to tied to get into the playoffs and lost by a tiebreaker.
I tried, man. I appreciate it, man. Appreciate the opportunity and love having you on tonight, man. You have a good night, and we definitely got to chop it up some more because we got some stuff to talk about, man. We just got to
absolutely
nick some time. I know we both been busy. Dujanay, let the folks know where they can find you at and your final thoughts on this team. How do you see this team falling out this year?
I like what Hurt said. I don't think that's possible, but I think it's potential because the way the season's rolled out. Everybody's coming in fresh. Everybody doesn't really know what anybody else is doing. And I think there's some things that this team can do that they can probably sneak up on some people and surprise them. I'm going with a 7-win season. It's not going to be a bad season, though. I think when you say 7 wins, people are like, oh, it's just the same old, same old. But I think you're going to really see a team that's competing, that knows what it's doing. You're going to see a football team that functions. You know, these fans talk about all the other teams that they see that look like a competent football team. And I think you're going to see a competent football team that's hungry, that's learning together, looking and trying to find a way to win together. I do like what Hurt said, though. I think that 9-win is a possibility, because I think with just like the NBA, you know, this whole thing of not having preseason games and not having, you know, any game film until, you know, people won't really start getting a gauge on what people are doing until like week, 3 or 4 maybe. Depending upon how you roll out, you may can run 2 or 3 plays. If they're working, you may just beat them over the head with it until they stop it. So you don't have to dig too deep into your playbook until late. So that is definitely a possibility. But I'm going to go with 7 wins. But I think you're going to see a very good, respectable football team. You can find the podcast on all, you know, podcasting platforms. The Breakdown. We will be changing the logo, adding my co-host, Karita Parks. It's been an awesome change to that. She's added a whole lot to this game, and she helps me and makes me look good. You also can find me on Not Bland 21 on everything. And Hurt, I'll be looking for that. Always have fun in your Pick'em League, and I'll be definitely entering it.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Appreciate you taking
Looking
the time.
forward to it, bro.
We had a short time, but appreciate it. What you said? You say, Hurt?
I said, looking forward to it.
No doubt, no doubt. Well, I appreciate y'all too taking the time out and making this a great pre-week 1 football segment. So I was going to get into the practice squad players, but all right, we'll talk about that next time if they get called up. Y'all have a good night, man. Appreciate it as always, man. Great episode, man. Love y'all.
Love y'all. Thank you.
All right, Robbie G, I see you back on the feed. That means we probably ready for some hockey talk. So let me get ready to switch up my graphics. My software then started acting up a little bit, Robbie. So you go ahead and take over. I'm gonna make sure my feed's still going because I got a disturbing message come across my screen. Did you mute yourself, Robbie?
Yes, I never unmuted myself. Very good. Okay.
Yes, now we're back
great.
and forth now. It hasn't been a show where Robbie has double muted himself in a while. So I feel back comfortable now. Let me make sure my feed's still going and let you guys go ahead and start off.
Sounds good. Yeah, no, the game currently that we're watching, Tampa Bay is up 3-1 over the Islanders. So that's interesting. I thought Tampa Bay is the better team, but the Islanders had an interesting week to get here. So I definitely want to break that down. We'll talk about how all of these teams made it to the Eastern and Western Conference Finals. Again, the New York Islanders and Tampa Bay are the 2 teams that are in the East. Now, last week, Tampa Bay had their last game, and it happened during our podcast, and they ended up winning that game and then winning their series pretty easily. Anna, what are some of your thoughts on that series to start us off?
Oh, I think that they definitely proved themselves. I don't know. I honestly have to say that I'm pulling for Tampa Bay during this series. I think it's their time. I don't say that lightly with a lot of teams, but I feel like they have I don't know. People were doubting because Stamkos was out that they weren't going to be able to do it. And it was like, come on, like he is a force on the team. He's fantastic, but the team has come together and they've done so great. Did I expect that series to end so quickly? I don't know. I think that, now they've had a week off going in. So I'm like, if that was the Capitals, that would never work in their favor.
It's been pretty good for the first period so far in this game. I was worried about that too. So I see where you're coming from.
Yeah. So, you just don't know. But I think that they have a strong team, and I think that they're going to surprise a lot of people.
Yeah, the Islanders have got to be tired. I wonder when Tampa Bay made it to Edmonton, right? I don't know when that happened, but I assume that it was long before the Islanders did because they knew that that's where they were going. There was some talk that if the Islanders series went quick, they could have one of the games on the other bubble, but that obviously didn't happen with the COVID-7. So I wonder if jet lag and them being more adjusted to Edmonton could have helped them versus the Islanders that obviously had to play just a couple of days ago in a different bubble. And
you just don't know. I mean, it's like, and then you think, okay, well, then are the Islanders riding off a adrenaline high, and they feel great, and everything is like everything is going to work in their favor. Tampa Bay's had a week off, so then they get a chance to rest. So it's like you just don't know, which is why the playoffs are so exciting.
Yeah, for sure. Brian, do you have any thoughts on the Tampa Bay Boston series?
Hey, Anna. Yeah, I thought this was, I was a little surprised that they wrapped it up so easily. Tampa Bay is a great team, even without Stamkos, like you said. So, I've really been impressed with what they've done so far. I'd say of the two teams, if I had to pick two teams left in the playoffs that I've been most impressed by, it's probably Vegas and Tampa Bay. I mean, I know Vegas got taken to 7 games in their last series, but they've looked like the two strongest teams, honestly. I think that's where we could be heading towards a cup final matchup, honestly. But, Tampa's a great team. I mean, I'm not too surprised the Bruins didn't go too far, honestly. When they lost Tuukka, I thought that was a huge loss for them. And I know Halak is good, but asking him to be as good as Tuukka Rask is a big ask for sure. And it was just never going to happen, I think, for them. So I'm not too surprised Tampa Bay won, especially how easily they did it.
For sure. I'll go to Carol. What are some of your thoughts on Tampa Bay so easily dispatching of Boston?
Well, we talked about how offensively and defensively skilled they are as long as they're playing their game. I'm not really too surprised about what they can do offensively. We see now they are 3-1 in the first period against the Islanders, who's been playing some stifling defense of their own to get to the conference finals. And this team is talented. They're hungry. We talked about the window that they had, winning the President's Trophy 2 years in a row and not making it to the Stanley Cup Finals. So I wasn't really shocked by it. And like you mentioned with Rask going out, I feel like, Boston, it was a Cinderella story that basically, bubble got burst by a team that was more talented and, wanted to go hungry to, get to that next level because they know they have the potential. They know they haven't put it together. Like we talked about with the old Capitals teams before they won the Cup. The potential was there. The scoring was there. They actually had better defense than the Capitals had before they got the Cup. But, I wasn't really surprised by the outcome of that game.
Yeah. I wasn't either. I definitely think Tampa Bay is the best team, but I was really impressed with the Islanders and their run to get here, especially going through a tough team. A lot of us in this panel thought that Philadelphia was the best team coming out of sort of that round robin weird situation that started this just a couple of weeks ago. It seems like a long time ago in some ways now. So Anna, talk about this series a little bit. I know you were kind of rooting a little bit for Philadelphia. What are some of your thoughts on how that series went down and them almost coming back?
Yeah, that was one of those. That was a hard statement to make, but I was okay with it. But like we said, so when we started off the show last week, we had going into the series a lot of 3-1, and thought, okay, are any of these games to go to Game 7? And how awesome was this last week? I have to say. Yeah. So Game 5, you do have the Flyers win in overtime in a 4-3, which I think that was starting to show the fans and everybody like this is who that number 1 seed is. Like this is who they are, and they have it in them, so don't count them out. Game 6 for me was a little like heartwarming when you have Oscar Lindblom come out on the ice and both teams acknowledging and stick taps and everything for him returning that just made it a really fantastic game. And they win in double overtime 5-4. And so now they're tied. But I don't know what happened Game 7. It just really went from like, all right, this is going to be amazing to 4-0 shutout. They just collapsed. And it kind of breaks my heart a little bit. But you know what? When you have an Islanders team with a lineup with a Brock Nelson, who I still think sounds like a porn name, but whatever. Barzal, Beauvillier, Pajot. I mean, like you have all these great names, and then all of a sudden you have a players on the other side where everyone's rooting for Oscar Lindblom, and then you have a Claude Giroux. So I feel like it was, it was like a good matchup overall. I was really surprised that the Flyers were shut out. I was hoping for a little bit more, but I will say Barry Trotz, uber class act in the interview after the game, talking about Oscar, talking about his overcoming cancer and everything that he's done, and acknowledging the Flyers team. It was genuine. And so, you have to love a Trotz classy moment like that.
Sounds good. Brian, what are some of your thoughts on that matchup?
Yeah, great series. Another one that was 3-1 and then went to 7. I wasn't particularly rooting for either team because I don't really like either team. But, I have to give Barry Trotz a lot of credit for one move in particular. In Game 7, he switched his goalie from Varlamov to Thomas Greiss, which couldn't have been an easy decision. Varlamov played really well in the Capitals series, as you guys remember, and played really well in their games the Islanders won. So definitely not an easy decision. It's kind of like, if you make the switch and he wins, that's amazing. But, what if you make the switch and you lose? You're left wondering, would Varlamov have won the game? Luckily, it ended up being a great decision for Barry Trotz. He deserves all the credit in the world for making that switch. Thomas Greiss was great in Game 7. Yeah. And I have to, even as a Rangers fan, I have to give credit to the Islanders. First time in the conference final since 1993. That was the longest conference finals drought in the NHL. I mean, what a long time to go without being in the conference finals for such a storied team that won 4 Stanley Cups in the 80s. They're the best sports team in New York right now, so good for them for all the success that they've had. I don't know if it's going to continue against Tampa Bay, but they definitely deserve credit for beating the Caps. They definitely deserve credit for beating Philly. I'm sorry, but you know what I mean. You know what I mean. You know what I mean. But I'm just saying, like, it's been a great season for the Islanders. They have a lot to be proud of.
Yeah, for sure. Carol, what are some of your thoughts on it?
Well, like I said, I'm rooting for the Islanders to win it all just for the Barry Trotz factor. I know Anna doesn't like the Clutterbuck factor, but unfortunately, I got to put Trotz over Clutterbuck. But they're
anything over Clutterbuck.
So when they're playing their game, like we saw with the Capitals when Trotz was here, when they're locked in and playing their style of hockey, it's very hard to beat them, especially when they get a lead. And their defense and their speed and youth and tenacity right now isn't paying off, being down 3-1. But we've seen this team. We mentioned in the Philly series when they were down 3-0 after the first period, we were able to force overtime. They still took the loss, but we know this team is a resilient bunch, and I don't think this game is over. I think this is going to be a good series. I think it could go 7. I'm thinking the Islanders and Tampa Bay, just because of the talent and the want and the way these two teams are going to go at it. But the Islanders, it was kind of a, not going to say shock, but Philly was playing some great hockey also, and to see the Islanders be able to come in there and close it out in that fashion, makes me feel a little bit better about my prediction and think hopefully the Islanders can take the whole thing for my man Barry Trotz.
Yeah, I think Tampa Bay is going to win it in 6, but I think it's going to be a good series, right? So I think that the Islanders will win 2 in there. I think Barry Trotz is a good enough coach, but I just think that Tampa Bay, they're just too good at least on paper. Like they've got so much skill, and I do wonder if I'm curious if Stamkos made this bubble, right? That'd be an interesting thing to know. I haven't seen anything about it yet. I don't know anything, whether or not he could even play in a future game or if he could play in a Stanley Cup final game if he made it that far. Yeah. Those are things that I wish that they would disclose, but I have not seen anything. I'll be honest. I was curious.
As far as I know, he's out for this series for sure.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah,
we'll see what that means going forward. It's really interesting because I didn't think that Tampa Bay would be this good without him.
Right.
But they are, but the Islanders play this suffocating defense. I think that's really what happened in that Game 7 against Philadelphia. Philadelphia just sort of saw what Barry Trotz can do, and he attacks you with this sort of style, and he does it 3 games in a row, and you might be able to beat him twice, but the likelihood of you doing that 3 times to that defense, it's hard, as they saw.
And I 100% agree with you, and I think that it is what the Islanders have in their favor is that they close out games and they play their 60 minutes, and then they play OT if they need to. Like, there's no stopping. So he's been fantastic. But there is something about that third line that I've become kind of a favorite of Blake Coleman and Barclay Goodrow, and they've just been dominant on the Tampa Bay end of things. So it's like I kind of would like to see. I want to see, it's a good balance. There isn't like one that we're going in, it's a shoe-in. I think it's going to be, I see a game 7, but I do think it's going to be Tampa Bay.
Right. Brian, what was your thought on how do you think the series will go?
Yeah, I'm thinking Tampa Bay in either 6 or 7. Like you guys have said, I think this is a good matchup for sure, but Tampa Bay is just overall the stronger team. It's been a great run by the Islanders. You have to remember, they had to play a play-in series against Florida to even get to this point. So they've technically already played 3 series already. So they've got to be tired. Plus, they've just made the jump to Edmonton already. So I don't know. They could just be tired at this point. But yeah, I'm gonna go with Tampa Bay in the series.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see if it's kind of like what happened with the LA series, where LA had like a long break and it was just a weird timing situation where. Like, I'd be curious if in a game 2, because I do think that this game is going to go Tampa Bay's way. I think they might come back and make it a little close, but I do think it will go Tampa Bay's way. But I wouldn't be surprised if the Islanders come back and win game 2. So I'm not, and I just,
3.
Yeah, it could be, right. I just think that eventually Tampa Bay is just going to be the better team and it's going to, win out. But we'll see. Just because we talked about last week, I like that sort of the building, the pedigree that Tampa Bay 2 years ago could have won them last year. And, it's been gunning for a long time. But, Barry Trotz's defense is pretty tough. But it's also tough to win 3 times in a row, as been seen. All these games got pushed to 7. But as we saw, in the Stars game, series, for example, they were up, then lost 2 games in a row, but eventually lost. And the same thing happened in the Vegas one, right? So it's really hard to win 3 in a row in that sort of situation, do or die. I was impressed that all these series were able to win 2, but let's talk about them for a second. That Stars against Colorado series. Anna, what were some of your thoughts on it?
I was really, really pulling for the Avalanche on this one. I don't know. I felt like it has nothing to do with Burakovsky. Carol and I are on that right there. If Grubauer
showed up again, though. He showed up again.
Best clutch player in the league.
Disgustingly amount, like really freaking good. I know. Yeah. I was like, but I think he just needed to leave the Caps, start fresh, and show his skill. Whatever. But I will say, watching Game 5, to see the Avalanche come back 6-3 was such great momentum. It was just like, okay, here we go. You have 2 injured goalies, and you put in Michael Hutchinson, and he has kicked ass in this series. And you're a third string, and it's like you have Burakovsky scoring twice, you have McKenna scoring, like you have all of your players that you want to see scoring and doing exactly what they're supposed to do, and then good goaltending. So I was ready for this series to kind of go the Avalanche way, but that's okay.
What an exciting one, though. Overtime.
Oh my God.
I mean, and just to have 3 different goal scorers have 2 goals going into overtime, and the question marks of could one of those 3 do it and finish the hat trick and end a spectacular Game 7, and then it happens, and and it hasn't happened since Wayne Gretzky did it. So it's just like, wow, what a way for that series to end. Carol, what are some of your thoughts?
Pretty much that summed it up. I didn't get a chance to keep a close eye on this one, but I know that I did see that the guy the rookie that had the hat trick was the first NHL first rookie to get a hat trick in a Game 7. So all the analytics they got. So I didn't get a chance to really pay close attention to this series. But I know Anna was rooting for Vancouver. But unfortunately, it didn't go their way. And, I just think of the experience of the Golden Knights, even though they're only 3 years in existence, just the combined experience from all the players that they have is what gave them the determining factor against this young, hungry team that pushed them to Game 7.
Yeah, Anna, what were some of your thoughts on that Golden Knights series?
Oh, some of my thoughts. I hate. So we're gonna. So are we not? We're not gonna talk about Avalanche anymore. We're gonna move on to the Canucks Knights.
Sure. I think unless there's something else that you specifically wanted to talk about.
For me, it was kind of the tale of two cities with both of them. The experience of the other team just won out, so that's why I kind of did the segue to that one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And that, but honestly, that the rookie with the hat trick, you kind of can't help but just love the player. I mean, it's like in the regular season, 11 games, he had like 1 goal, no assists, or 1 assist, no goal, whatever it was. Yeah. And then all of a sudden he gets a hat trick and he wins overtime for the start. It's just like, that's the kind of stuff that you absolutely love to hear about. But as for Vancouver and the Knights, wow, can we just give hats off to Thatcher Demko? I mean, you can't not acknowledge what a fantastic goalie. 43 saves in Game 5. I don't know. Like, I'm so torn because, like, I shouldn't say I'm torn. I don't want Vegas to continue. We all know that. But I will say that
well documented. Right?
and I kept it PC. Come on now. But I will say there's something I have a soft spot and an admiration for their goalie, not Fleury. Now I've heard it said Lerner. Yeah, I mean, it's like all these different, but God, he's just, he has really, really impressed me. And I will say, kind of in a non-hockey platform, he's been very open about the mental health aspect of things. I think he has bipolar, and he's been very open about it. And I kind of appreciate the fact that he's bringing that to a platform that some of these players are like, okay, hey, we can talk about this. But he has been absolutely fantastic. And I know when they put Fleury in last night, I wasn't surprised because, I mean, God, Robin needed a break after what he did. But I wasn't impressed with Fleury. I don't know. He just didn't seem to be that stellar goalie that we were so used to. But anyways, I know I got off topic with talking about last night's game. I know. I feel like I'm like all over the place right now.
No, you're fine. I guess we got to get into that series anyway. So I mean, it's not a bad segue. I just I was bummed. Obviously, we were all rooting against the Golden Knights just because I thought I liked the story of Vancouver, but Vancouver plays some not great hockey at times either. So I don't know how exciting that would have been. Like right. Golden Knights versus Stars does have glitz and glamour to it, and sort of like. I was surprised, sort of segueing into that game, how low scoring it was, knowing how high powered both of those offenses are. But it also shows how great, both of the goaltenders are in addition to that. So, I mean, I even though Fleury didn't have a great game, I mean, he only let in 1 goal, right? Wasn't it 1-0? Yeah.
It was, but there's something that he just seemed off for some reason, just watching him, like certain things that's like shots that should have been a little bit more, I guess easier for him didn't seem as easy, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Not saying that, he's obviously has a record of outstanding, statistics and everything else when it comes to especially playing in playoffs and things like that. So I understand why he's there, but
And to come in after the agent and all those issues that we talked about earlier in the playoffs. So I'm impressed that all that circus that I thought would doom them, really didn't. I'm happy they lost the 1 game that Ryan Reeves sat a suspension out for. I know, Anna, you thought that it should be more. I agree. I mean, the hit for other players may not have been deemed more than 1 game. but he's got a history. And I think that just because of all the Black Lives Matter stuff, he got a pass this time. And I hate to say that, but I really feel that way because his hit and his double standard and him going for the head, if it was Tom Wilson, he would have gotten 5 games. Like,
he would have been out for the series.
Bullshit. Like, and I'm like, he has a history of doing shit like this. And they were like, oh, 1 game. I'm like, it's not a 1 game. He went up and through the guy. Like, is it just not 3 games this playoffs? Because I mean, it seems like they're giving a less harsh penalty for the bubble playoffs than they have in previous years. If we're going to try to compare the same hit across years and years past. So I don't know what the deal is. I thought he should have gotten 3 games, just like anybody else that levels that exact same hit. I know that Golden Knights fans are like, oh, it's just a regular hockey hit. I'm like, well, I disagree. But I mean, if they're trying to take head hunting out of the game, then you got to give that 3 games every time.
Well, and my biggest argument, and there's been a lot of social media arguments with myself and other hockey fans out there when it comes to Ryan Reaves, I will say that what frustrated me the most was like, okay, 1 game should have been 3 because he's a repeat offender. This isn't as if like, oh, this happened and you know he hasn't done this in 6 months. He did this in the postseason. It's like, give me a flipping break. Like a couple weeks, same thing, and there was nothing. And so like it's just infuriating. And he leads the NHL in hits. It's like, come on, that record has to speak volumes. And I think that's what happened with Tommy was, you know, they looked at his record, they looked at his penalty minutes, they looked at you know everything else, and they finally said, okay, enough's enough and you're out.
Yeah, Carol,
this is absolutely ridiculous. So yeah, Carol, what's
you?
I didn't even like I said, I've been in baseball world and doing some other stuff, so I didn't even see the hit that you guys are talking about, but I know he's a definite repeat offender. He, just like they say about Tommy, that he pushes the line. Well, I say he, pushes the line. They say he's a dirty player. I consider Ryan Reaves a dirtier player than Tom Wilson. And I don't know about the Black Lives Matter having anything with the suspension or whatever it is, but I mean, like you say, if he's head hunting and hitting people in the head, he deserves the 3-game suspension. Like I said, I didn't see the hit or see most of that series, but it is a head scratcher. Because like you said, if it was Tom Wilson, it would have been 3, 5, maybe thrown out for the rest of the playoffs because of his so-called reputation. But normally hockey does a good job with consistency. It may be something with the bubble, I don't know, but yeah, consistency is the key. If you're trying to take a head hunting out of the game, just like they're doing in football, you have to penalize these players properly. And from the way you guys are describing this hit, it sounds like it should have been a 3-game suspension. I'm not sure why it wasn't.
Yeah. I don't know, Brian, were you able to see any of that hit?
No, I didn't, but Ryan Reaves, his reputation is well known around the league, so I can only imagine. I can only imagine what it was like, and I agree. I even though I'm not a Caps fan, I do agree. Ryan Reaves is a dirtier player than Tom Wilson.
All right, I like that. There you go.
I mean, I'm not saying Tom Wilson's clean, but I'm saying that
we'll take it.
Yeah,
all right,
stop talking.
We'll take that. I don't see Tom as dirty at all. I see him, maybe pushing the envelope, but some of his hits in his early career, leaving his feet. Okay, I can get that. That's not really dirty in my mind.
Right.
To me, there's never really been anything where he's gone out there intentionally trying to hurt someone.
And I'll put it this way. In this hit, I don't think he was intentionally trying to hurt him. But the thing was, he still skated through him, leveled his shoulder up and through the head.
Yeah.
And so the guy, went off. It's all the same protocols. And that's why I just don't understand the consistency. And I would say across the board, they haven't given very long suspensions during this bubble playoffs. So that was where I'm speaking to. It's like that seemed to have gone out the window. Everyone seems to be getting 1 or 2. I haven't heard of any 3-game suspensions, but we obviously in previous years have had them. I mean, they've been levied.
Something to do with the COVID in the bubble. So you might be right. You might be onto something there, Robbie.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting. They never spoke on it. They just don't really give much of an explanation. They gave even less of an explanation than they usually do on this one. So, it leaves us head scratching. But hopefully, Vegas just gets swept, and then it doesn't matter, and they just,
What's that?
Yeah,
they go away.
Right, they go away. That solves that problem. I definitely
root for Dallas, man. I can't root for Dallas.
I know. I struggle that with. We talked about this last week.
Yeah.
3 games in a row going to and losing to them. For me, they're like the hockey Cowboys, right? They have everything from Dallas. They have a star. Like they're just green versus blue. But like I don't, like for me, it's like one and the same. I'm sure the fans are the same. So,
but I feel like that the rookie who got the hat trick, and I'm sure I would butcher his name if I even tried to say it, but. He's the reason why I'm like, you know what? Yeah, I'm gonna pull for Dallas. And I've always liked Tyler Seguin. He doesn't bother me. I think he is a player that has a ton of skill. And Jamie Benn, and like, there's a couple of Stars players I'm not completely happy with, but I think that this little story, I will take that versus.
Vegas getting back to the finals. Yeah, so it's pretty much
just Vegas in general.
Right. So I'm with you. Rooting against Vegas whenever that happens at this point. So
I mean, there's the George McPhee factor also. I as much turmoil he had here and not being able to put a winner together, I'm not ready for him to get a ring yet.
Yeah. And Smiley and all that sort of stuff. I mean, I'm not like, I don't hate them like I hate the Penguins or any of a lot of the division rivals. I know Anna definitely does, but I will still for fun root against them. And I have a lot of family that lives in Texas, and it's like one of the very few Texas teams I could probably root for at this point. So, so I will get behind that. Brian, are you going to watch that West series? Do you have a rooting interest in it?
I don't have a rooting interest necessarily. I'll probably watch a little bit of it if there's if there's NBA, if there's no NBA or anything on, or if like NBA is a blowout or something, and then Western Conference Finals is going on. I'll probably check it out. But
last resort.
Yeah, it's not high on my viewing priority.
It's like 7. You got soccer, you got Yankees.
It's up there, so it's on that list somewhere.
Right, it's on a sports list.
Yeah,
so that's good. That's funny. Would you probably more likely watch the Tampa Bay Islanders?
Yes, I'm going to be keeping a close tabs on that series because I want to see how the New York team does. So even if it's not my team, I want to see how the New York team does in this series. So I'll be keeping a close tab for sure on the Islanders series.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I will mention that the basketball game is over. It ended up still being a bit of a blowout with Boston winning 111-89 over Toronto. So they take a 3-2 lead, and they'll probably close it out in 6. But we'll see if it takes them 7. Because so far, like the home team has lost every game, I believe. So the next game is supposedly a Boston home game, even though we all know that means nothing in basketball other than the color of the electronic scoreboards behind everything and the different virtual fans that are being piped through, which I still love. I wish that hockey could have found a way to do that, but I don't know what hockey fans would do on virtual Zoom screens, throughout the arena. So,
What are you trying to say?
I don't know.
Are you guys watching the Eastern Conference game now? Because we just had an interesting play just happened that gives Tampa a 4-1 lead.
Really?
4-1?
Yeah, Tampa was coming down with an odd man rush. I'm not sure what the player was. But he went to the right of the net. Varlamov scooted to the right, and he did a little hook move with the space between Varlamov's skate and the net. Varlamov eventually he stopped it at the beginning, but the ricochet had went into the net, and Islander player had smacked it out. But they went to replay and looked at it at the next stoppage of play and saw that the puck did actually cross the line. So now Tampa's up 4-1.
Wow.
Because I thought it was a great save that Varlamov made if it didn't score because he was so far out of position.
Yeah.
But,
there it is. There it is. Yeah.
It was in the replay now. It was a great play by Tampa. So Tampa might be making a statement this first game.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So I think we've sort of broken down all of the different hockey series and how we've got here. I'll give each one of you guys kind of a final thoughts, and then we'll sort of wrap up this podcast. Brian, I'll let you give your final thoughts first, since you've been on for this entire wonderful show. I know you didn't have much during Washington football talk, but you've been here for watching the whole thing. Any final thoughts from you? And thank you for joining us tonight.
Yeah, no, just thank you for having me. Looking forward to next week, and hopefully, for me personally, hopefully the Yankees start playing better than they played the last couple of weeks. That's not been pretty. So hopefully they turn things around. They're off to a good start tonight. They're up 6-2.
Cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
There you go. Who are they playing?
The Toronto Blue Jays.
Okay.
Yeah.
Womp womp.
Sounds good. All right. Well, thank you, Brian. All right, Anna.
Yeah, no problem.
I know that you guys aren't really recording shows. I know that Gil did put something up with his goalie or his coach thoughts, right? His coach, it's coach thoughts. So you can probably catch that on our if you go to sportsothp.com, click PowerPlay Point Podcast, you can listen to Gil's thoughts on that. Did you have any additional thoughts on the Caps coaching situation? I know they've interviewed some of those big names that we had been talking about.
I know. Probably why I wasn't on Gil's show is because he's so much more knowledgeable about all of that. I wasn't pulling for Babcock, but we'll see what happens. I think at this point, they're going to definitely be looking for that veteran coach who obviously has a little more fire in him than Todd Reardon did. So at this point, I guess it's a win-win regardless of whomever they choose.
I think any of those three big names that we've been talking about would have that fire, and they've been there and they've proved it in the past, been consistent playoff winners and, have that pedigree to, be there for cups. And
Agreed.
I don't think, honestly, I think they'll probably go right with any of the three, hopefully. We just got to get the bottom six shored up and try to figure out how to stay under this very tight cap window that we've got and stuff like that. But any final thoughts and anything you want to shout out before we let you go?
Pulling for the Stars and pulling for Tampa Bay. I think it'll be good. I think this is it's fun hockey. And then when I look at the schedule, I'm like, it's like every night this week. So there's a game at 8:00. So that's awesome. So yeah, I start school tomorrow. We'll see how this whole Fairfax County 2021 virtual school year kicks off, but we're prepared better than we were back in April.
Good. And I'm happy to hear that. I know I work for a school as well, and it's a tough time. We started back last week. We did a virtual welcome, and they've been doing virtual classes, and it's very weird because usually I'm there filming all the ceremonies and making all these videos, and here I am like cutting virtual footage together, and we're putting backgrounds, and it's just a very different world that we live in. And,
it's crazy. And that I'm not a computer person whatsoever. So I had to do a virtual Google Classroom and was absolutely amazed when someone sent me this like Bitmoji classroom. There's like 137 slides or something I could look through on how to, design my classroom with a bookshelf and a coffee mug or this or that. I'm fascinated by the people who could do that. But yeah, so I set up something very generic, but I'm okay with it. And I'm like, at least the avatar looks like me, I think. So
nice.
We'll see.
You have to offline. You have to send me a screenshot. So
Yeah,
I'll definitely check it out. Sounds good. Well, thank you, Anna, as always, and we'll have you on back next week to talk about these conference finals.
Absolutely. And take care. See you, Robbie. Bye, Carol.
All right, man, have a good night. Appreciate
You
it.
too.
All right, sounds good.
Oh,
all
boy.
right.
Full show, Robbie. Full show. We got
We
it
got it all
in.
in. Yeah.
About 2 hours and 15 minutes. I had a couple of technical issues on my side. I was watching my YouTube feed. I started it back up for the hockey. If you're watching on Periscope, it stayed going. I like that new Periscope feed. It gives me a little bit of flexibility. But to give the final score, the Nats were able to win tonight against Tampa Bay 6-1. Max Scherzer went 7 innings, earning his fourth win of the season. He didn't give up any runs. It was a late run they gave up from the bullpen. I didn't really look at the box score or anything, but at least the Nats have won 3 out of 4. Try to be optimistic. Like we said, they want to go on a hell of a hot streak to get back into the wild card playoff race. But it ain't over till it's over. We saw how bad they were, and last year at a certain point in the season it improved. So we can always still hope and wish, even though it's a far-fetched hope. But hey, we can always hope that they can get a chance to defend their title.
And just root for them every game we've got. They could have just not had a season. So even if we only get 60 games this year, let's just enjoy 60 games of baseball, because it's going to be a bit until we get some more. So it's I'm happy just to have it on. It's, even if it's right now, I'm watching the basketball and hockey playoffs, but it's been awesome to be able to flip it and just to be able to show Zach as he gets older, baseball. He's so into baseball right now, and so it's just I'm happy that win or lose, that I can at least show him a little bit more, and that's
No doubt, no doubt. It is good to have some sports after going that 4-month law without any sports whatsoever. So yeah, I can't be too upset. Like I said, they're not playing the best ball and not getting the consistent pitching. They have some injuries and yada yada yada. But at least we're able to watch some baseball, and they've been pretty safe with the Corona stuff. We had the Juan Soto earlier this season, but ever since then it's been pretty clean. I haven't heard of any mass incidents like we saw with Miami and a couple of other teams, I believe the Cardinals. So apparently some of the protocols that they put in place has helped the situation. We still give kudos to the NBA for doing their thing, and they're still coming up clean. We spoke about football at the beginning of the 8 o'clock hour, so that's still going to see how that's going to pan out with all the physical contact and everything. And I forgot to mention during our football talk that the league and the NFLPA are going to continue doing daily tests on every day except for game day, and to continue to try to make sure everyone stays safe. They agreed on that last week. And hold on, I think it was something else I was supposed to mention. Where my clipboard go?
all right.
Let's see. Quick segment. Quick little asterisk for the Washington football team. Landon Collins will be wearing number 26 now, and Jimmy Moreland will be wearing number 20. If Landon Collins wore 20 last year, and when he was with the Giants, but he gave his jersey number up to Jimmy Moreland. He'll be wearing 26 this year. So that was something I was supposed to mention in our football talk, but we had such a great segment where Hurt and Dugenet. I forgot to even mention it. But
real quickly before we go, I do wanted to ask you one quick question. So I wanted to get on the record all of our record for the Washington football team. I was not there for that segment. So Hurt said, how many wins did he say?
Yeah, Hurt said 9. Dugenet said 7 with the possibility of 9. He saw the window of Hurt, but he said 7. I'm gonna play it safe and go 8-8. 5.
Nice. I'm going with 5 wins. I know that's not very optimistic, but I just think that there's going to be a lot of rebuilding. But we'll see. I hope I'm wrong. I hope we get 10. So
it's going to be a crazy season with the COVID, no preseason, and new scheme. You got Haskins as the number 1 starter. He's coming in, has something to prove and build off of. At the ending of last season, we well documented his last 7 games as starting quarterback. He definitely showed improvement. We saw him, answer all the questions and all the challenges that Ron Rivera sent him, to get in better shape, film study. And if you don't follow him on Instagram, you should, because he has a lot of good content on there. And they actually showed a segment when he was mic'd up and he made a bad throw that turned into a turnover for the defense in practice. And you saw him going to the DB, asking what he saw, going to the wide receiver, seeing what he saw, and then finally getting a critique from the quarterback's coach, and he absorbed it all in. There was no, pouting. There was no, ill will. There wasn't angry at, for them telling him stuff, but he's eager to learn. So that's definitely a good sign. And with the, preseason not happening and offenses trying to learn, I think that they're going to, with them being a passing on the backfield heavy team with Scott Turner's offense. And I think that's going to play to the advantage of them. And the defense is definitely going to be a strong suit, especially, like I said, with the stalemate or the lull you're going to have from the offense with them not having preseason. So if they can get off to a good start, and you never know what's the possibility, but I'll stick with it on the safe side and go with 8-8 myself.
Yeah, you've convinced me. I'll go with 6. All right.
I'd rather go with 1 game. In a 10-minute span, that's a huge move probably to go with 1 game, because he's normally set his ways. But it's definitely going to be interesting. Sunday, I'll be doing on a part of a video shoot, so there probably won't be a pre-game. Hopefully, I should be good enough to get a post game. I'm gonna be. It looked like the Islanders almost scored on that power play. Looked like it hit the crossbar. But I'll definitely should be available for the pros game. If not, we'll just break it all down on Monday night. If we can get Dujanay and Big Hurt, then no big deal. And I'll keep you posted on the pregame at Martini's and see if that's still locked. Then I have to get with them. They had some difficulties with Phase 3 in PG County not opening it up when they say that Maryland will be going to Phase 3. Unfortunately, PG County is one of the counties that will not be going. So things are a little bit up in the air on that end, but you can catch the pregame and postgame show live. I'll be streaming it, especially when I get out of Facebook jail. That's another story. But we're going to have the best sports coverage around. DC Sports Without the Politics. Not just a catchphrase. It's not just a motto. It's what we do. Make sure you check out SportsOTHP.com. If you want the SportsOTHP apparel shirts, hit me up, inbox me. If you want the District of Champion shirt and pillow like Robbie got in his shot, go to the website, SportsOTHP.com, click on the apparel link, and go ahead and order yours and help support the movement. Got to give a quick shout out before I get out of here to Eric Kusa. Got to shout y'all out before. Pardon, I did before, but you got to rock got some good quality apparel. Make sure you check them out there on IG also at erickusa.us. So check them out. Stay tuned for so much more. We got so much coming. Football season starting. We got hockey playoffs. You got basketball playoffs. And, unfortunately, we might have baseball playoffs, but the Nationals might not be in it. But we're going to keep our fingers crossed and see what they can do, if they can salvage this season and maybe get another late season push and maybe get some more postseason magic. But, Rob, you got any parting shots before we get out of here?
Sure. I'll do my my parting shout outs. We were on a podcast last week. You can check my page out if you want to see anything more about that with Katara. So shout outs to them. Shout outs to everybody that was on tonight's show. We had a busy show. We actually had a 6-person NBA roundtable for the playoffs. It might be the largest we've ever had, especially on video. So shout outs to all the guys for coming through, and it's been a really exciting NBA playoffs. We'll definitely, I think, keep about the same times next week. I liked how the show flowed. Start off with some baseball, do some NBA talk. We'll talk about how the Washington football team did against the Eagles, and then we'll get into some conference finals, NHL talk to end the show. It seemed to flow really nice tonight. I liked it. But shout outs to Anna and Brian for coming on for Hockey Talk, and Dujanay and Big Hurt for joining us for that wonderful football talk segment. And I'm excited, and hopefully I'll even be able to join you if we are able to do a post-game show, maybe for a little bit. I may mute myself at times if Zach's being a little too crazy, but hopefully we'll have a win, and if we win, I will definitely more likely want to be on if that is possible. So, that's we'll put it out that way.
Sounds good. Like I said, I'll be out of Facebook jail in 15 days, so gotta hold off until I can start getting my rock and roll on Facebook again. But like I said, follow me on Periscope, Carol Porter III, 3 eyes. Same thing on YouTube, Carol Porter III with 3 eyes. Stay tuned for so much more. DC Sports Without the Politics. It's not just a catchphrase. It's not just a motto. It's what we do. And we out. See you next week.